And welcome to the Hawks Nest live stream show. My name is Brandon Kane, and I welcome you here to the Seahawks Weekly Roundup. We take a little bit of a final look at the week that was, a little bit ahead to the week that's going to be and also just some minor details with the Seattle Seahawks news and things that can kind of slide between the tracks, in between the weeks, in between the play weeks, I should say, as the good times have been rolling very nicely for your Seattle Seahawks. Everyone out there is having a great week as we find ourselves here again set up against an opponent that's not necessarily going to be at super strength this upcoming week. So we're going to dive into a little bit of that. Going to discuss as well the Seattle Seahawks DVOA ranking and some of where they find themselves. Some Seattle Seahawks who both got awards and one that got a nice little spot in Hawks history this past Sunday that went kind of unnoticed a little bit. But starting out here, right out the jump, is, of course, the thing that we are all most excited about as we begin things off here, which is the Seattle Seahawks now truly control their own fate to getting the number one seed, the bye, first round, all of that good stuff. Last 3 times you've had it, you've been to a Super Bowl, all that good stuff. And I know this is everything that people are probably as much very well aware of really at this point, but you do have now an Eagles team at 8-5, completely out of this. You have a Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears team that's only in this if you happen to lose this. It comes down to these last few games. And we can talk about this Colts game in a second with what's coming up in alignment with that. There's 3 tough ones then on the back end of it. Kind of wouldn't be surprising though as well, though, in that if all 4 of these games, you're probably going to be favored by Vegas, even in some of the tough matchups that are. But as well, I think I keep coming back around to just marveling a little bit at the fact that the schedule has set up so well for the Seattle Seahawks this year. They've taken advantage of it. They've not letting themselves slip up on a given week, which we have seen from just about everybody else in the NFL. And if you had slipped up one given week to one opponent that you should have taken care of business to in this NFC, where 11 wins is maybe going to be the base requirement to get into the playoffs as a wild card team, could cost you bigly, hugely, monstrously. And that's where we see here with the team that they've not done that. And they've given themselves this opportunity to now take advantage of this in the major way. And hopefully you're as excited as I am, because in this NFC that is so competitive, coming down to home field advantage, I know some Hawk fans are going, well, we haven't been as strong at home recently with some of that. I think that's coming around now. We've quietly gone here 4-2 here after a little bit of the tough start in the beginning points here this year at home. Granted, we've had some of the easier foes coming in that we've been able to deal with here and there at times. But that being said, you still have taken care of business when it's all said and done on that. And that's, really the most important part. So really good week for us last week and how these opponents played out, how this set up. Seattle now has here over the next week and a half, interestingly enough, an opportunity with this Colts team for a very winnable game at home. But then I was looking at it as well, and the Los Angeles Rams are going to have to here soon go on with Detroit at home this next Sunday, and they're going to have to play them. And Detroit's a real physical team. They're the type of team that really gets after you, that can kind of make it a little bit of a slugfest throughout the course of the game. I remember, I think it was last year, the Rams played the Lions in like week 3 or something like that, and they came out of it, and it just felt like they were terribly beaten up coming out of that game. It was one that was very tight, very close, right down the line. But by the end, it just felt like they had lost a couple of different guys on that. And this is important because the fact that Thursday night game's coming up here right on the heels of this Sunday game for the Lions and the Rams, meaning it's a short week, short turnaround. There are parts of the roster with the Rams that are younger-ish, but there are some older players on this roster as well that a short week's going to be maybe a little bit of a tougher turnaround for them versus the 3rd youngest roster in the entire NFL being the Seattle Seahawks. But this has been set up very nicely now. It's, yes, going to be tough by records to play these teams, but again, probably you're going to be favored in all 3-4 of these games. We're mighty favored here this upcoming week for good reason. But that's a very good position to find ourselves in, and do not undersell the fact that if we can have home field advantage, especially if we can lock this fan base in fully, if we can be like, hey, you get in that stadium here in the playoffs, reinvigoration, reinvention, back to the old. I don't want to see the decibels at 107. I want to see the decibels at 127. Can we get there again? Can we push you back up to that level? Do we have that in us as a fan base again if we get in the playoffs? And then you watch how strong that home field advantage weighs back into things. It'll be a mighty return at that. It's been getting better this year. Part of the reason records improved, but that really could be a dominating factor. That's why I harp on it so very much. And one of those teams that's going to be set up for us to be able to play them this week and maybe make it a little bit easier to get through is, of course, we have the Indianapolis Colts rolling on into town. And the Colts have done kind of the unthinkable. And let's set the stage for this. First off, you have Daniel Jones in the midst of a really great season. He breaks a leg. He's favoring that leg with the other leg, favoring it with the other leg a little too much. Snaps his Achilles on a drop back. He's out. Riley Leonard comes in. Riley Leonard's a backup from Notre Dame, not a real highly drafted guy, not a guy anybody thought was going to have a lot of overhead to him. A guy you kind of just hoped and prayed you weren't going to have to play him, because remember, with the Colts on this, they have Anthony Richardson, who I'll get to in a second, that was going to be the ideal number 2. So Riley Leonard then has now a PCL knee injury. He's looking like he may not be able to go. PCLs are ones where some guys can play through it, some can't. It's hard to, I would say, play the quarterback position with that. But look, Philip Rivers, the guy coming in here, once played with a torn ACL in a playoff game. So I guess it just depends on the level of toughness. But I'm also guessing they're looking at Riley Leonard and they're going, look, even if you're healthy, we don't know what we could expect out of you at most. His mobility is a big part of his game because he doesn't have a great amount of arm talent. So the PCL injury does then factor in a little bit more at that point. And as I mentioned with Anthony Richardson, he literally snapped himself in the eye with a training band before a game this year. And he's still recovering from that, still coming off the IR from that. So Anthony Richardson off the table as well. This leads the Indianapolis Colts to Brett Rippon. Brett Rippon, the son of Mark Rippon, former Wazoo quarterback, former Super Bowl winning quarterback. And he's had a cup of coffee here in the NFL here and there. He's had a start here and there. He's not been particularly good here or there. He does not instill any confidence in the Colts. And so they are throwing the Hail Mary out there for this particular game. They're saying, oh, please let this maybe work. Please, Lord, please. They are going to try and run out Philip Rivers. Man who's been out of action since 2020, a man who's just about up for Hall of Fame induction, because he was going to get in this year. I think this was the year he's just about to come up to be eligible, is coming back to the Indianapolis Colts. He was there in one of his final stop there at the end. He is going to now return. It would look like there is growing heat for him actually starting. That this is, when I said Hail Mary, hey, we just do not have faith that without your mobility, Leonard, you can go. And Brett Rippon, you're Brett Rippon. Almost rather have Mark Rippon. So I guess we're going to have to go with Rivers. So indeed, you're going to get Philip Rivers out here for this upcoming football game. Hard not to see how this makes this an easier way. Now, if Rivers can come out and he's got just enough of the mentality. I was seeing his face there. He's got a little bit of that. I'm definitely that dog that I like this challenge. He'll embrace this. He'll come in here and he's not going to waver as a guy that's been on the sport for 5 years, who's going to get hit and start, oh, it hurt. That really hurt. He's gonna probably feel and get after. The adrenaline's gonna be pumping. And so you got to take this threat seriously to a degree, I think. But it does speak to as well, I can't remember any time in my life that a team has called up a quarterback that's 5 years removed from retirement. There's been teams that have flirted with the thought of doing it. They maybe made the call to do it, but I can't think of one where they've actually did it. And they've did this one here, and he looks like he's going to be starting. And if he is starting, this was not the most mobile of guys in his prime, became even less so mobile as he got older. He is not going to be able to move back there if you can get anything on him as far as pass rush pressure goes. And so you're going to feel like Colts probably come out, if they do have starter minutes, it's going to be running the ball 75% of the time, maybe with Taylor, just hoping they can get the job done that way. But he is going to be maybe particularly, I put a betting favorite here at this point that he's probably starting. And then you've got also some other issues here with the Indianapolis Colts. They're going to be maybe getting back to Forrest Buckner right now. He's questionable. He's had a neck injury. I'm hearing various reports about how potentially long-term serious that neck injury could be. There's some back and forth there with that. Tre'Davious Ward just had his third concussion. He's going to be out of this game. Then you've got Ahmad Gardner, who's coming back off a knee injury, and I don't think he's likely to be in this game either. So probably down a couple cornerbacks, coming in with the 45-year-old quarterback who's been out of the sport for 5 years, and you get to play this game at home. Another one in a season that's had a lot of these games. I'll acknowledge it, but we've taken care of business here, and we've not slipped up. Can't slip up this week. Got to get the 4-0 home stretch down the line on this one. Got to take care of business. And who knows what we're going to get here from Phillip Rivers, which I wanted to put this little meme up there. This was on Reddit this week. I just love this because the Colts, of course, trading 2 first-round picks for Ahmad Sauce Gardner, and then he has this lower leg injury, pretty major one. I'd be surprised if he comes back this week, and probably back this year, but definitely a pretty major leg injury. And this, of course, a reference to us trading 2 first-round picks to the Jets for a defensive tackle, and we're the other guy in the meme here saying, first time? First time, buddy. That's too bad. A couple other little notes from last week, just wanted to mention, kind of a cool thing. We got Jason Myers, the most field goals made all time in franchise history. I think he sometimes gets battered around here a little bit, and I've been one of the great proponents of the theory of the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde with him in given years and back and forth. And this year it was looking like Mr. Hyde season, as it would typically be in this odd year of his career path, where for a 10-year period, you can completely track him to it's great to bad, great to bad, great to middle of the road, great to middle of, it's kind of something like that. This year, he's actually coming around and really starting to have a really, really good season, not to mention what he's done on the kickoffs and some of the stuff that he's been able to pull, getting guys kind of confused on some of those sort of squibbish kicks, where you're just trying to get it to roll just right and bounce up wrong, like the Steelers game where you're able to get a touchdown in that game on the back of Myers. That was really his responsibility. But congrats to Myers. Also a big congrats out there to Rashid Shaheed. He is your NFC Special Teams Player of the Week. Easy to understand there when he had the touchdown return. Guy provides you a weapon on this offense. You can put him back as a tailback. You can throw him out there for bubble screens. You can work him as the deep guy to run off coverage. He can run pretty decent routes around that. And then he gives you the special teams ability, both as a kick returner and a punt returner. There's a lot of value in there for that 4th and 5th round pick, albeit I know you are getting this on a little bit of a rental. There's a reason you gave that rental up, because there is stuff that he gives you no matter what. And that's the cool part about this, that return you saw this last week, is that he's going to supply a help and a boon to this team. I kind of felt like what it was when you got his return here. Everybody's thinking about what he can do to just kind of explode a little bit. And I always thought it was a little bit more of, could he be more of like the Percy Harvin role? Where Percy Harvin came back after that hip injury that took him out through all of the year that we had traded for him. So we traded for this guy, and then second he walks in the door, he's like, my hip. It's like, we didn't even practice yet. He's like, yeah, I know, but my hip. So he gets the hip surgery, works back as fast as he can to get back. Still not at 100%. Bring him back for a Vikings game that year to go back against his old foes. And he actually has a couple plays in that game. It's a little bit of a tight game. It's not a assured game. You need a few plays down the line to kind of seal it away. And he has a nice one-handed catch in that game to do it. Saints playoff game then later that year. He started out really provide you a helping hand offensively to allow you to get up in front on that team. And of course, then the Super Bowl. I think Sheed will give us a little bit more than Harvey did at the end of that year, but similar kind of impact and what he can bring. And very cool to see he was able to pull that off. A couple updates here with some items as well. We've got Jalen Sundell should be back this week, according to Mike McDonald. I know for many of you out there, and Bradford's getting knocked around a lot online in a major way here at this moment. So I know many of you are wondering if that means he's going to go to right guard. I'm sure this just means that this is going to be a competition in practice. I would probably say that considering, and you'll see in a second here on the PFF score for Molo Atimi here and some of the scores we've seen recently from Molo Atimi, that maybe they're going to just push Sundell into center, and that we're thinking a lot about right guard, but we're not thinking as much about the fact that perhaps Sundell is just a better center than what we're getting from Oluwatimi, who's you know what I mean? He's playing. He's snapping good. I'll give him that. Cool little fun fact here from Corbin Smith on this one. Seahawks are the only team in NFL history to have a player with a sack, tackle for loss, interception, and blocked field goal in the same game. Leonard Williams did it last year, and Nick Emanwari did it this past Sunday. Kind of weird there, huh? This was almost one when I saw it, that it was a little bit like, the Tyrese Knight thing, where you're like, we are the Matrix team. You know what I mean? We have the most unique things happen that then repeat themselves that nobody else had. What's going on? How's that occur? How'd that happen? Another little cool part, and if you don't know what DVOA is, Aaron Schwartz is the progenitor of this, and he is the guy that kind of came up with this, which was to try to take all of these statistics you have in the NFL, try to take weighted this, weighted that, bring it all together to try to determine the best teams in the NFL from kind of a statistical basis using ideal analytical items along that path to get it kind of right and pure. This is a metric that's kind of been one that's proven to be, I think, fairly equivalent to those teams when you get to the end of the season that bear out to be the best of the bunch. I'm not just talking about playoff teams. I'm talking about teams that then have playoff success, get to the Super Bowl. You can backtrack them normally to having really high DVOA scores. And so it was very interesting. Here's this last week in the noticing Seattle's been very good on DVOA throughout the course of this year, but just looking at how great they are across all board on this. You have offense is the 8th overall DVOA wise, passing offense 3rd, rushing offense 23rd, special teams is 2nd, defense is 1st, passing defense, sorry. I said that it's written as passing offense, but that's passing defense. Passing defense is 1st, rushing defense is 1st, and that makes your overall 1st. So if you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different items here of kind of a rating. 5 of those items you are top 3 in, and you've got 4 ones on the board through that. And so this is not just you maybe having a cherry picked one point of these stats where you're the best on this, but everything else over here is kind of struggling. This is struggling. Even the one thing that is kind of struggling on this being the 23rd rushing attack, number 1, that's heavily weighted to the early part of the season when you weren't running the ball as well as you've been running in the back probably 4 or 5 games. But number 2, this is the heavy driver to why the offense has able to been so efficient and explosive is that teams want to take away the run game. So they're going to pay the price for the pass. And as well, the final point being you're up in so many of these football games. You're lapping the competition. You're into the 3rd quarter. You're leaning on the lead. You're just going to run the ball. They know you're going to run the ball, and you don't care that they know they run the ball. You're still going to do it because it becomes a matter of there's only so many possessions, there's only so much time, and you can bleed a good couple minutes off a clock with a mere 1 first down on a drive. You can have 5 minutes taken off of a clock like that. So there's kind of just a math to this and understandableness to this where the rushing offense is actually better than even it's rated as being, but you're looking at this, you look at the PFF board. If you take the best teams in PFF, I think Seattle are 2nd or 1st on that as well with all of their rankings. They rank the offensive line and how your receivers and your running backs and defense and all of the individual parts, they've got us right up there as well. So which one do you want to look at? Which one do you want to consider? Which one do you want me to weigh in on? Because they all kind of bear out to the Seattle Seahawks being elite, not good, elite. All right, let's keep this motoring on here and moving on into our segments. Again, I appreciate y'all watching today. If you can for me, do me this favor and please hit that like button. It helps the channel grow and show. And you know what? I really do appreciate it on top of that. And let's get to our first segment here, which is, of course, our PFF grades of the week. All right. We got the offense up here first against this Falcon team. And look at the man with 29 snaps leading the way on the board. I did not have as much of a view on Nick Gallerup coming into camp this year and having a real track on him, and didn't have him on my final 53 roster projection. There was others that did out there. Props to them. Covering the Hawks, and he was one guy that didn't for me just because I was like, I don't see the fee of Saubert here to be your blocking tight. You had Barner already, and Roy's not going anywhere. But Nick Gallerup is really developed into a role here on this team when Saubert's gone out of. And I think some of it is with Barner. I think he's got a shoulder harness on there. Wouldn't surprise me if he's kind of working through something this year a little bit on his end. But Nick came in to be kind of that blocking tight end they hoped he could really develop into, being an upper level blocking tight end. And as you can see here with the grade this past week, he gets a 79.7. He's your top graded Seahawk. That's on 29 snaps. So it's not just 10 snaps he's out there. 29. It's a pretty healthy amount. But it's the pass blocking grade was at 76.4 and the run blocking grade at 80.4. Matches up to what you see with him on tape with this. And then remember a couple weeks ago was Zach Charbonnet on the run where Charbonnet got into the touchdown 2 weeks ago on the down by the end zone. And we had Gallerup and Barner leading the way. That was Gallerup there getting that last seal block. He is very good and he's very clean technically. When you watch him lay his blocks, hands inside, drives, He's in a really good position, but earned that grade as well. And a very good, another one, just one of these great developments for the Seattle Seahawks of not only is it that you have depth here, but you have depth in a guy that will now be with you here for a couple of years. Not here to light the world on fire, but to serve a very important role in this offense. Rashid Shaheed able to get a 77 grade, have a little bit of a break, not a little bit, a breakout game here for your Seahawks since coming over at the trade deadline. Jackson doing what he does. Velus Jones, I thought, was kind of impressive coming out there as a running back for your Hawks and doing what running. He had that one big run for 25 yards, I thought, but he ran strong as well. 6 snaps, so don't take too much away from that with it. Sam Darnold had a really solid day. Gray Zabel with one of his more highly graded days of the year, which was cool to see for him, especially wondering where his leg's at coming off that knee injury. Cody White was solid in what he brought to the table, though, of course, wasn't asked to allow with the 17 snaps. Zach Charbonnet in there. Abraham Lucas has been steady as she goes throughout the whole entire season. You have Cross in there, middle of the road-ish. Bradford, 65.7. So a decent day from Bradford, as I know, again, he's banged around by this fan base, and I get it. The bad reps are bad, but there's not all bad reps. There's good reps in there too as well. Now, I'm not saying he's the answer. I'm just saying we got to paint the portrait accurately. As you look to the bottom, I mentioned Olu, and this is where I get back to Sundell, and everybody wondering about Sundell going to right guard or not. Olu's been kind of down here on the ratings front since he's walked in. There are some bad snaps on the all-22 when you watch the tape on him where he's losing blocks quick at times. It's not all bad. It's not atrocious film. But you could maybe do a little bit better with Sundell out there and having him go there instead. See what the team decides to do on that one, but kind of is what it is. Only 8 snaps there with Christian Haynes to get the 52.3 grade. Don't take too much from that. He's coming in to fill in at the end of the game when Atlanta knows you're going to run, and I wouldn't pull too much from that. Elijah Arroyo seems to have a bit of a knee injury right now, and I don't think he's going to make it up for this next game. Didn't play great necessarily in this game either. He's been very quiet through the back half of the schedule as the team just doesn't seem to have a real role for him in this offense, even when he gets a lot of snaps. And it's been a little bit of a confusion there as to, what the team's, kind of looking to do with him. And we'll see what they do as we go forward with this, especially with Calrup's development. Maybe they just go with Barner and then they take the other 2 guys and go, hey, we got 2 grade A blockers here on the other side of it. And Barner will serve as the sometimes H-back. Maybe they go that route. Wouldn't surprise me in the least if they decided to do so. You see again, too, Robbie Oots down there, 57.5. A little bit of improvement where he's been at times here on this. It's not been the best of seasons for him on the graded front. All right, when we get over to the defense, Devin Witherspoon with a 95.0 grade. Nick Imanwari, to me, is the guy everyone's going to talk about coming out of this game as that guy. And rightfully so, as Nick played amazingly. But my underrated hero of the week is going to be Devin Witherspoon because of all he supplies to this defense. I've been saying he's already a star. Many have been saying he's already a star. Some of you have been kind of scratching your head and looking at us wondering, why are you telling us he's a star? Where are the interceptions? It's like, you have to, when you turn the tape on this guy and we all watch this 22 stuff and you see the big shots up here and you can see the guy flying from over here to there and just playing with this electrifying amount of effort and fire and fury and get after it and competitiveness. And he does it snap in and snap out. And today was a game where it reflected it. Mike said, a great term I love, ball finds energy. And Witherspoon is the exact epitome of that and how he plays the position. And this past Sunday really epitomized that in the way he played. Able to cause a couple of turnovers in this game, but it wasn't just that. It was also in how he tackled and rallied up in space and covered. It's the full meal deal with him, and he has absolutely found a home as an outside corner right now. He has found his home. Tyree Snight in there for 13 snaps, played pretty well. It's cool to see with him on those 13 at the end of the game, coming in just filling in for Ernest at that point because you want to give your defense a little rest, We like to rest our defense in the fourth quarter. It's what we do in Seattle. Just how we roll. Drake Thomas, what a year this guy has had. Good year as well. I was not aware. We're able to put a restricted tag on him. Restrict the out of that guy right now, okay? All the way on that one, John. Restrict. Derek Hall posted a 74 grade. He has continued to have a very solid back half of the season. Boye Maffe's also been playing better of late. Very cool to see with both these 2 youngsters. Rick Woolen, another guy, let me add it, just continues to play really solid down the back end of the schedule. Game after game, stacking up games. Really cool to see. Also, look at the 78 tackling grade on Reek Woolen. Look at that 78 tackling grade on her. But he actually got out there and got after it, man. Run defense, 70, 67.6. If I show you Reek's all-time PFF stuff, this is like light years from where he's been. Julian Love coming back from injury, got his 20 snaps, played all right. He did okay out there. On the bottom side of it, Brandon Peely, 15 snaps, not able to do a lot with him there. He's had some good plays and some good games for us, filling in for Jaron Reed, but definitely having Jaron back is going to be very helpful there. Byron Murphy wasn't super well graded in this game. I thought he played okay. Maybe a couple of those runs that went over, his side where he got doubled and pushed out, they're penalizing him for. But this is the problem sometimes in Byron when you're going to double him at the point of attack like that with a great running back running behind the double. It's going to make it a hard day for him. Mike Morris, only 7 snaps in there, and Nick Eamon-Wari, I don't know how they got 53.2. There was the big play he gave up to Kyle Pitts down the field, remember? So there's a couple of catches in there that were given up. And he gets the interception, but a lot of that's going to be probably from PFF standpoint credited back to Devin Witherspoon because he's kind of the guy that forced it a bit there. But Nick had a great game. Certainly was not a below average game from Nick Eamon-Wari. Special teams wise, we got Nick Eamon-Wari also supplying, granted only 4 snaps on special teams, but got the 94 grade with that block kick. No surprise there. Tyrese Knight playing well on special teams. He had a guy he lit up a couple weeks ago in the Rams game, concussed himself. It was sucks as far as the concussion, but it was a cool hit. And he's still doing some cool stuff on the special teams route. Robbie Oots, Cody White as well. 2 guys been solid in that way. Caller up Mike Morris has also been really good as a special teams guy. So good to see them also well graded in there. And I don't know what Jason Myers got to do to get any PFF love, man. They just can't. They won't give him no PFF love. But I don't understand the special team scores. I do get the rest of the other grades, but sometimes the special team scores are like, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know what's going on there. All right, let's get over here to the man I was just talking about a second ago, the man that was sitting here at the top of your PFF score, 95 defensive rating, 78.9, almost 79 run defense grade, 80 tackling grade, 90.7 pass rushing grade, because he can do that too. And then, the best thing maybe he does is cover, 94.3. Let's get on over to our underrated hero of the week. Oh, yeah. And the guy I want going to be this man, Devin Witherspoon. And it's always hard to kind of capture when you just tell people that this guy plays with a speed and a fire and a spirit. Like, okay, well, what is that? Don't all guys play with that? Isn't that everybody? You go, not everybody. It's just you can call it the reckless abandon. I like to sometimes call it out there a little bit. And it shows up in just so many ways with him to me that this pops. Get myself off the screen here. Go over here to this one. Put me down there. You get it first in the run game. And this is an alignment where he's a linebacker here. For all intents and purposes, he's a will linebacker. He's just about almost to the inside shoulder of the tight end there. He's playing this so that he can get down to everything from the outside gap to the B to the A gap, should be to the right of the center. I mean, he can get all the way down that from this alignment, partly by getting down in the box like this. But this is a 190-pound guy walking down there like a linebacker and then playing this aggressively like he does. Breaking down in space, under control, maintaining his gap integrity. You see the slide shuffle when I talk about gap integrity. This is gap integrity. So he's reading outside zone. So there is no A gap run here. There's no, I got it. That's a pre-snap. You might go, okay, if the run goes there, I've got to be well ready to go there. But okay, I got it. It's an outside zone. They run outside zone. He reads it. So he knows Uchenna's got to set the hard edge. He's the gap responsibility to the right shoulder of Uchenna Nwosu. So before he goes and just attacks this play into, essentially what would be the B gap there, 71, between 71 and 63, he's got to make sure he's clear in his lane first. Bijan, look what Bijan does. He reads Devin Witherspoon's in his gap. Oh, hell. So then he's going to go back to the B, and that's when Devin pounces. So while he's not able to, Bijan's a great player and is able to basically almost break this tackle, and still a great tackle by Witherspoon to bring him down. He's got help with Imanwari there too. Those guys are such a tandem. And he's able to break it down, but he's late to that hole because he's got his first responsibility he's got to keep cleaned up. And he forces the cutback. Shout out to Uchenna as well here, setting a hard edge. See Uchenna. Uchenna's job, route him back inside. You'd love to make the play if you can from Uchenna's perspective, but route him back inside. That's your first job. Don't lose your left outside shoulder to Bijan here on an outside zone. And then Devin, same way. Don't lose your outside shoulder, force it back inside yourself, which is exactly what he's doing with his leverage there. Nice little play. I know this isn't a splashy highlight reel kind of play, but it's sometimes what you're just doing down in and down out. Dirty work, technically correct. Trust in your leverage. Trust in your teammates around you. Here again, out in zone. He's got a first drop to space. And then rallies back up. Comes up, clips down Pitts. Now look, Pitts isn't a tackle breaker. This guy's outweighs him by 30 pounds. And that speed of flying up. You guys remember Carroll talked about the comparisons with Witherspoon when he was drafted to Paul Umalu. You ever watched Paul Umalu? The torpedo tackles like this, where the guy just blurs up from off screen and cuts the guy down. That was his bread and butter. You'd see it all the time. All the time with Paul Umalu. So he's out there making plays. And coverage as well. A factor in the run game. Showing up all over the place. Bubble screen. Comes up. Reads it. Tackles. Gets two hands on Bijan Robinson and picks Bijan Robinson up off the ground. Nope. You're not going nowhere. I mean, maybe he doesn't pick him fully, but he stops him, okay? Maybe there's not true separation of ground to turf there, but he's trying. And just instinctually, right there. See how you can't, I should have done the other angle on this one when I took the upload on this, but you can see that Pitts is on his shoulder here when this comes wide. And yeah, Jones is just on it, no doubt here first to really, make this play happen as much as anything. But you can see Witherspoon's able to get off that block. He's got Woolen to his outside. Again, leverage. Who's the responsible man coming up? Why can you go inside here? Because I know I've got Woolen out above to my left. But he just gets right off block so easily. It's something that's stood out about Witherspoon since his rookie year, in that he's almost an unblockable player, especially by wide receivers. This is the tight end that's struggling with it here. Albeit Pitts is kind of an H-back more than he's kind of truly the hybridized kind of player, but he's a big guy. And he can't block he can't block Witherspoon here. See, I think I did this one. I'm sorry. Hang in here with me, folks. One more tackle in space here. Far from an easy play on this one. Blocked out in front here. Tight end on him. Beautiful play here too. Go a little bit slow motion. So he's got to force him first inside. Force him back to the cavalry with your leverage. Yes, even in plays like this out in space, you're forcing back to leverage. Throws the block off, says, all right, I got him to come inside. Now I'll go tackle him. Ball carrier goes, oh, I'm super quick. I can get to your outside shoulder. You just gave up leverage. You're going to get pin blocked now with the tight end. Does he? That's why you rally up. If you get Jones coming up again, doing a great job, but this is the place where you can ensure the tackle's made when both hands are able to get on deck there. But another nice play. We're instinctually sliding back and forth, just playing great in space. Hard to block. I told you that a second ago. It's all over his tape in his rookie year. It's one of the things I like about sliding to the outside as well, is now you get less of the tight end matchups when he goes to the outside. Now he gets more of those just outside wide receivers and some of those guys that can be a little bit smaller. That if you're a 190-pound receiver, I mean, your only chance to block him is being kind of a beastly 215 and you're real physical, and maybe you can give him a little bit of problems with that. But even that's going to be a bit of a struggle. I want to show as well the 2 interceptions with him, of course. This one's just, pure spoon. We saw this last year in the 49er game where he tipped up the ball for Hankins and got him the interception. He's just being sticky in coverage, having ball skills, getting on top of the route. Good things happen when you get your hands on the ball. Emanwari's smartly aware of what's going around him there. I mean, there's not much to be said on this other than just a great play. And the fact that we've seen him do it before, not going to be the last time we're going to see him do it either. Not with the skills he brings into play. It's what makes him such a nice player is when you get caught up in all that. How many receptions do you have? Did you get a 7 this year? I mean, but get into all of the little individual parts of his game. That really is what makes him in full. As a tackler, sticky in coverage, some good ball skills, super hyper competitive, playing with his hair on fire 24/7, a heartbeat of the defense type of guy with the energy that he can supply. There's such a list of things we can go down with him. And by the way, Jalen Carter's all right over there, but I'm telling you, Jalen Carter still is troublesome when it comes to defending the run. He ain't a complete player. Say what you will with Witherspoon about how far into star status he potentially is. He is a complete player. All right, we're going to get over here to a couple of play calls here that I want to get to, but it's going to be the first one's going to be leading to Witherspoon himself here, because this was my favorite play, I think, of Witherspoon and what he's done here in a couple of years. I think this is my favorite one. And the reason why is because there's so many things he does great on this play. And it's going to require a lot of kind of unpacking here a little bit. The first thing is tricking a guy like Kirk Cousins. One thing you see with a lot of quarterbacks that have been in the sport for 12, 13, 14, 15 years is that they've seen every blitz, they've seen every simulated pressure and stack box, and it's very hard to trick them about your intentions. They can just feel what you're going to do. It's like trying to lie to a cop. Like, people do this to me all day. Yeah. Did you? Really? So you have a game here situation where Kirk Cousins is trying to figure out the right call. And the right call walking up, in my opinion, in this game, and this is just my opinion, the call as they walk up here initially is not bubble screen. The call is that we're going to attack somewhere down the field here, or where I believe it's a passing route of some type. You have here from the Seattle Seahawks, before we get to Witherspoon, who you can see standing just behind Derek Hall to the bottom side of your screen. You see to the top side of the screen that you've overbalanced the line, where you've got 4 defensive linemen, but they're all with the center to the left-hand side of the Falcons offensive line. So this leaves Ernest Jones and then 3 Falcons over there to block it up to that other side. This is a funky look to look at from an offensive perspective about how you want to predict this pre-snap, especially if you have the pass here, because you can see how this has all the hallmarks of potentially being set up to get a free rusher if all of those guys go and you end up sliding the protection in the wrong direction here. And the theory here is, you could see it from a Falcon standpoint, is, they're trying to get us to slide protections to the left so that they can get Witherspoon freed up coming off the backside the other way. That's what they want to do to us here. That's what Kirk Cousins decides is happening. And you can see in Pitts and even the wide receiver there in the slot who's pointing at Witherspoon, they're not helping Cousins out here because they're like, he's coming. He's coming. And watch the game, watch the cat and mouse that goes on now here between Cousins and Witherspoon. And this is pre-snap. This is before the play even begins. So I'm going to go through this a little slowly because there's a lot of stuff going on here, but let's play it one more time for you just to watch this, okay? First guys come up, they point. Cousins changes the play to the bubble screen. Pitts gets out wider in his alignment. So let's go through that. Changing the play. Pitts moves out to a wider alignment because he needs to be able to block better for where the bubble screen is going to go here. So moving out, moving out, moving out, right? They're going, okay, we got this set up now with the numbers game where if Witherspoon comes, the anticipation would be Witherspoon blitzes. Now we have the 3 for the 2 there, and it being the safety to the high side being Brian and Woolen. So we've got our 3 receivers or 2 receivers plus tight end for the 2 Seahawks defenders on the back end. And then Akata's going to have to run like hell to get over this play, but it's definitely going to be a win. It's definitely going to be like an 8 to 10 yard play. And it's our adjustment. And again, you're making the adjustment because initially Witherspoon says, I'm coming on the blitz here. Come on, blitz, change the play. Witherspoon falls out, but that's the cool part on the final part of what I want you to take notice is fall back, but at the snap back into it. Fall back at the snap back into it. Why is that such an important part of this? Because he fully still ends up selling the fact that he's blitzing. If he just fell back there, Cousins could be thinking in the back of his mind here just before the snap, oh, he got me faked. He just pulled out of it. He just adjusted to my audible because he's thinking, oh, I audibled. Now he's audibling out of it. He saw that I changed the play. So now he's counter adjusting. He saw Pitts slide out. So he's sliding. So Witherspoon makes it look like he goes to the adjustment. He first sells him on the blitz, then sells him on the fact I'm going to the adjustment, but then right back before the snap, then comes right back to be like, no, I'm still coming on the blitz. And so the last bit of information you're giving to Cousins is, yes, I am coming. Yes, you're likely to have a free rusher. Just get this hot potato out of your hand. And the one thing that we saw with Cousins throughout the game last week, he wanted to get the ball out of his hands if he was going to anticipate that there was going to be pressure. So one more time on this. Starts in, change the play. You caught me. Look at how he even sells it on look at even with the head nod of Witherspoon here. The theatrics. You got me. Oh, man. All right, I'll pull out of him. Okay. And then you come back on it right at the snap. Okay? Right at the snap. Now he's back on it. Back out. You caught me. Okay. I'm audibling because I'm like, oh, shit. Audible. No, wait. Now he's coming. I'm sorry. I got to split those clips up because they don't let me run them pure. So we come back. Witherspoon bounces out. He's never coming on the blitz. Bounces out the whole way out on Pitts. Eliminates the Pitts block seamlessly here. Like gets Pitts to overrun him. Cuts around the side on Pitts. Gets his hand up in there to disrupt the catch. Receiver's like, how the hell are you in my face? You were supposed to be blitzing. Then look at the underhand here. The underhand comes up to help tip this ball up here. Boop. Up she goes. Eric Hall tips it around. Witherspoon's able to find the ball. It's run a couple times here, but an absolute marvelous play on so many levels. Just take it to it. Fake out the quarterback. Kind of fake the quarterback for a second to think you're pulling out of it. Then fake the quarterback a second time on the same way that you are coming on the blitz at the end. Defeat the bubble screen block. Contest the bubble screen catch. How many times do you see a bubble screen contested? Contest the bubble screen. Manage to get the ball tipped in the air. Manage to have the wherewithal after the ball is re-tipped to then pluck it out of there and be the guy that comes away with it in a sea of hands, both in black jerseys and white jerseys. It's as good as you get as far as an NFL play goes. And it's one of the reasons to me that it's so very important to have a defense that doesn't just line up and show you what they're doing, and then that's what they're going to do post-snap. Because when you can confuse a quarterback, and you can confuse an offense, you're giving yourself such a great advantage defensively speaking. And you don't always have to confuse them on the back of risking to a big play, right? It can be just we can play it to safe coverages. We can play it to depth drops. We can play it to where we're not allowing a big play, but we're showing them something pre-snap. We're getting them to think it's this pre-snap. We're putting them into an uncomfortable bind. We're making them nervous. You want to do that as a defense, and it's just one of the earmarks of this Mike Macdonald defense that makes it the great defense it is, that makes it cutting edge. Yeah, simulated boxes, stack fronts, and all that, but also the disguising, the manipulation of offenses. It's a beautiful thing to see. And Devin Witherspoon is a star right now. Not on his way. He is right now. He is a fantastic cornerback. And the combination of him and Himenwari right now between the 2 and 1 is really holding it down too on that other end of it. Now you have Love coming back into the fray here with the secondary down the stretch and what we can get from them and having them at their full strength, running strong, rolling with the guy that Imanwari is now getting to the back half of his rookie year and things starting to kind of light bulb coming on brighter and brighter and brighter. Whew, look out for what this defense could be down through the end of this season. Hopefully playing their best football. And definitely Devin Witherspoon right now is playing his best football. All right, let's keep it on moving here. And let's take a look at our biggest hit of the week.
The biggest hit of the week.
Oh, we got ourselves another safety this week, Lansom. And a nice hit here. Bijan Robinson, one of your tougher tackles in the sport. Ty Akata comes up here in a pretty big hole, I'll say, as well in this play. Fairly mighty-sized hole on this play. Comes up and cuts down Bijan with a nice little stick. You got to love how Ty Akata's played. And a guy you're really worried about with him coming in. He's a guy, if you go, well, if he's got pluses, it's probably with some of those ball skills and some of what he can do in coverage. But he's also done a really good job of running the alleyway. Coming down from center field there. And what a nice little lick here. I mean, he spins Bijan Robinson around on this hit. And Bijan's a nice size running back. He's probably a good 210, 215, easy. Love the hit there. Some of this team does well. Tackle very, very well. Very, very well. That'd be my biggest hit of the week for the week here. All right, let's keep it on moving, folks. Keep this thing going. Keep it rolling. And take a look at a little bit of what's going on at the NFC West. Got to track this NFC West. It's the tough NFC West. Wild things are always going on in the NFC West. The best division in football by far. So let's take a look at what's happening here with the NFC West. All right. Interesting week. We had the 49ers this last week on a bye, but of course we had another game going on in this division between the two foes, being the Cardinals and the Rams. The Rams absolutely destroyed the Cardinals, and somebody was saying in my chat that they were calling them over on Mike's chat, and they're the Cancun Cardinals. And let me tell you something, that team has checked out. I think we saw this last week with the Atlanta Falcons, a bit of this spirit into that second half coming into full bloom. I think as well that you're seeing this with the Cardinals. It's been a tough year. They were in so many games to start out this year where everything was very close and tight. And you'd lose by a game, but it'd be 3 points here, 4 points there. Even to us in our first matchup there where we had to beat them down at the end of the line there with that drive. And you've seen now that they're starting over the past few weeks to really, really get taken to. And it's partly been somewhat of the injury stuff, partly just that I think that team's kind of lost that feeling of, oh, we are close. Instead, it's like, oh, no, we're far away. And it's getting dark out there in Arizona. I'll say that. It's with these losses, and especially getting just destroyed by your NFC West foes, where it just makes you feel like you're that much further away than probably really Arizona is, quite frankly. This has kind of led to really pretty hardy speculation at this point that it's Kyler's gone, no doubt, but it's the release or maybe they can foist him upon somebody. I still don't know what team is trading for Kyler Murray and that contract. Why? What faith could you possibly have in that deal? But they think out there in Arizona they can move him for something. Gannon seems to be gone as a real foregone conclusion at this point. It went from, well, maybe we'll give him another try after a year from now, and to he's out. Get him out. Get him out. They got the pitchforks out down there in Arizona. So a tough game for them against the Rams. Rams, unfortunately, hate to say it, are also really rounding into shape here, not on just the back of this game, but when you look through their schedule and as they've had more and more of their blowouts down the line, that's starting to emerge more and more as their team does seem to be getting stronger and stronger as well. I think there are still some question marks on that defense. I don't know if it's quite as strong as they thought it was coming into this season. You know, not that it's a weakness or that it can't still get after you. It can, but I think that there's definitely some places that you can attack from them defensively speaking. Offensively, though, it's legit. Blake Corum got running last week, going over 100 yards, and they've had Kyron starting to roll well now. As in addition to that, overall at least for the season, they've got a nice balance there. And Puka Nacua just made some insane catches in that game. There may not be a better contested catcher in the game of football than him. Definitely one of the best receivers, pure bottom line in the sport. He was a monster in that game. But the Rams go to 10-3. They are going to be sitting now with the schedule that sees them taking on the Detroit Lions this week, then a short week to Seattle. Then you have the Falcons and the Cardinals. So we've got to take care of business in this one. We can't hope for them to, even if they lost, for instance, to the Lions, and then you lost the 49, lost the Rams, it still wouldn't put you in a position to be able to, with the tiebreaker, to get it. So you're going to have to get that win against them. There's just no other ways about it. The Niners do find themselves in an interesting position to where they do have an outside chance, as weird as this sounds, for the number one bye. They get to play the Titans, the Colts, the Bears, and the Seahawks to finish things up. Certainly with the Titans and the Colts game, that's looking very winnable for them as it stands right now. And then they take us on the road, they're at home in their final two games there with the Bears and the Hawks, us. So also a team still in a position to fight. The zombified San Francisco 49ers at 9-4 continue forward, and this division is definitely the toughest in the football, and maybe one of the better runs of a division than we've seen in 8 to 10 years here in the NFL, with so many teams so good this year out in this division. It does look like, as you kind of play out this playoff positioning a little bit right now, that you have the Bears as that one other team, the Niners, that leaves just one other wild card team at that point. Who will it be? We will see when this one comes. Actually, sorry, we got the two out of our division and just one more. So it does look like to me that when you look at one of the Panthers, Buccaneers, Cowboys, and Eagles, that you're going to have to win that division if you want to get the playoffs. It doesn't look like either of those two second place teams are probably going to get in. And so that'll make this a very interesting end of season run on how this kind of all ends up shaking out a little bit. But Seahawks are in a good position. Everything is in front of us for a capturing. It's right there to go grab. Got to go take it. I thank you guys for watching today. If you can hit the like button, maybe subscribe on up, I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you to all y'all checking out the channel today and hopping on in this show. If I can, I'd like to give a quick shout out and thank you to the sponsor of this channel. Sponsor of this show is going to be under my thing here. Sorry, under my file. Let me get my deal here. There we go. Gotta get my thing up. All right. We got sponsor of the show is going to be by Sleeper. Sleeper's the number one sports app running the game right now. It's my favorite. And my favorite for a lot of reasons, mainly because of the number of type of picks. You can tee stuff up. If they go, well, over 8.5 yards rushing, you want to take the over or under on this. You're like, I think he's going to get 45 yards rushing. Tease it up. Help your pick out. Push it up a little bit, right? And they've got a great couple of nice little deals going on right now. First up, use my code NEST. They'll match you up to 100% of your first deposit, up to $100. That's $100 from me to you through the app. And what makes me at the same time go get that money, go earn that money. Go make yourself a few bets. But then also, in addition to that, they've got a freebie $20 entry, no deposit needed. Just create a login on the Sleeper app, and they will put $20 in your pockets. That's $120 from me to you. I do know that there's still some certain regulations that are not quite being unloosened here by the Washingtonians at the legislative office, and that I'm told that there's still some restrictions for y'all out there in Seattle at times. Stick with it. It should be opening up at any time. If you are in a casino, you can use the app in full. These are my 2 picks so far. We're still waiting for some of the picks to come out for this week right now, but I grabbed a 16% boost, and I've got Sam Darnold at 1.5 touchdowns this week, and Baker Mayfield at 15.5 yards more rushing, as he's a guy that uses his legs quite a bit. I'm expecting Darnold to throw a decent amount. No Charvarius Ward, no Ahmad Gardner. Expecting that you're going to be able to find some holes in that secondary to be able to attack. And the Colts, in addition to these injuries, have not been playing at their best football in recent weeks. It's all kind of, I'm not saying collapsing, but it's definitely eroding a little bit from Indianapolis's perspective. And one of those reasons that as a coach, you want to look at those coaches that are out there that do exist in this sport that are able to kind of get their team built up to the best form by the end of the season. And when you got a guy like Shane Steichen trying to keep his job, you kind of have a guy like that that'll be throughout the year just kind of more in that, taking it the week by week, trying to just desperately get through each and every week. And Then you have coaches, I think, like Sean McVay, for instance, that have a very good understanding about how to set a team up properly to have them not only humming by the time they get to the playoffs, but also a reasonable good health as they end the playoffs at the same time. So these are my picks. Terms and conditions to apply. Please see the Sleeper site for details. But thank you to them for sponsoring the show throughout the course of this year. Thank you to you guys for utilizing that code. I really, really appreciate it. Let's get over to you guys in the chat. See where my people are at. See where everyone's mindset is today. Again, please do, if you can, hit that like button. I would really appreciate it. And if you have any questions or comments for me, again, just put Brando Hawks Nest B. Hey, so I'll answer that too. I will answer that as well. 12th for live, go Hawks. We really did get 2 first-round quality draft picks. Nick mother effing Imanwari is unreal. He's playing like a first-rounder and playing like a blue chip first-rounder at that. The fact that the league let us get this guy, it's a little bit of a representation as to why the sport still struggles to always understand safeties and how to use these safeties and be able to find guys that can be jack of all trades guys and get the most out of them. I think a lot of defensive systems kind of struggle with these type of players. Mike McDonald loves these kind of players. This is what makes his system go in many ways. And so Nick is fantastic, man. And he's playing amazingly great football. Last week, Justin Jefferson, one-on-one, no problem. I got this. No doubt about it. Dog. It's a dog. Nicholas, I was happy to see Earl at a few games a couple weeks back. Seems like he's doing a lot better. So thankful for that. I watched earlier through college and wanted him on our team. Great player, man. Great player. And very cool to see him back in the fray. You want all of the former Hawks that, former legendary Hawks to be a part of this organization, where there is that sort of, once a Hawk, always a Hawk. Even if things ended a little bit tough. Lux says, just imagine if we didn't waste the picks on Arroyo Milrow. Yeah, I try not to bitch and moan about that too much, Guns. I really do. And I do hope these guys long-term are going to be players that'll be guys that can roll and make it work. But definitely a little bit of wondering on that with John, with so many good moves you've made this offseason. There's some buyer's remorse. Wouldn't mind putting him on the lie detector machine on that one a little bit right now. Right over here north of Spokompton. Oh, goodness. Surprised you guys don't have snow rolling through there. Abby. So Zabel and Imanwari both proving why they're supposed to be first-round picks. We got a steal in the second round thanks to the Steelers. Imanwari. Indeed. Yeah. And, what he was doing, in college is what he's doing here. And that's also part of this is the imagination and understanding that a guy that at his size can work in the slot in this modern era. And that he's got the skill set to make it work. But we did. A great job by John to be able to identify where he was going to fall to, how long he could kind of wait in the cut to jump up and go grab him. And he pounced. You could see how a fit like this made so much sense. Yeah, 12 for life. It's too early to call Ellie Rowe wasted picks. I'm certainly not that place. I definitely have a little bit of that about whether it was really the fully right path, but these are probably 2 picks as well that even any of the biggest naysayers would probably have to acknowledge were selections made as much because you're going to want to develop in the long term. Certainly in the case of Milrow, that wasn't the one that you really as much. I know they talked the big game about we'll have sub packages and all that for him, but I think that was as much majorly a kind of a long-term investment lotto ticket thing. And in Arroyo's case, kind of a similar situation, but just kind of in a lesser. You had Barner here, so you knew he was going to have to come in and ascend to being number 1 tight end, and that you could kind of fit him into a weaponized sort of role. Says Arroyo better wow the crap out of me next year. And yeah, Abdi, not wasted. It's definitely not my perspective on mine. I know you were responding to the comment above on them. I get where Thugs is coming from, man. We will see long term with these guys. Yeah, I'm okay with the project aspect of it. I mean, it was a I'm not a guy that's ever had a lot of faith that, part of this with this is always in the project. Part of the assessment of the project on a player has to be confidence in the player being able to reach the completed state. That this thing is not always going to have just sort of the bare bones of this thing of, well, the building's there. I mean, if we can just get the walls up around this and the roof on it, it's like, yeah, but what if that never comes? And that's always the part of it with the project stuff is that there's also got to be built in, layered in that of what is my confidence this does actually work, as opposed to, well, we're just sort of kind of rolling the dice, and it's very much a blind roll of the dice where really the confidence isn't there, but this kind of stuff just kind of is randomized, and some guys will just kind of suddenly hit. And I think it comes in with Milroe on the work ethic, comes in that he's going to put as much time in as possible to get better, but there isn't a great given track record of the guys needing to clean up this amount of stuff in their games to getting, I think, as much that to that functional state. But it is, at the end of the day, he was a long-term pick. Was not brought in here for this year to be in there competing with Sam, or the sub packages are cool, but that was not the point of the selection at the end of the day. I think Abdi, it's if I can speak for the others, because I'm not trying to say this, by the way. I'm on board with you on the this being a Milroe project, and then you got to give it time to let the development happen. And the stuff he needs to fix isn't going to be corrected over an off season. It's going to take time. But it does come down to that. What is the confidence level in that project status reaching completed state? And then the second part being, of course, what else could you have done with that selection to potentially get the immediate returns for this year? Because that's the part of this is we're looking at this right now. You have a team that's 10-3. If you have significantly better right guard play, are you a win better this year? Are you 2 wins better? Does a Ratledge take you to a place that you can be 13, 14 wins maybe because that's more steady Eddie on that? I think that's an argument some of those people would make with that Abdi, and it's not when I'm saying that I'm 100% on. That's I think I lean towards where they think on that. I would say that, but I'm open to both sides having proving out to be true with it. But I think that's where there's a fair point within this, that you're going to be very close to the number 1 seed. You're going to be probably very close to making a lot of noise in the playoffs, and having a position of deficiency like we've seen on certain parts of this team that could have been rectified with one of those 2 picks or both those 2 picks certainly does stand out a little bit. I think and I think it is fair. But I think it's also fair from your perspective that we look at this and understanding with Milroe that it's not a year 1 thing. It is going to be a couple year process to see where this can, lead to. And the guy's work ethic is awesome. Cal says we never discussed Walker. Will he also walk? I'm thinking that he's going to be more and more in the team's crosshairs to sign to some kind of extension to maybe even franchise him for a given year. We'll have to see how it kind of plays out because I'm not really sure what John's really exactly going to do at this point. He's got a lot of flexibility in different directions he could go. Luce is not a betting person, but does sleeper work in Washington? It's supposed to be opening up in Washington. It was supposed to actually open up already. I've been told that there's been a couple last details of the legislation office of them trying to figure out how to tax it appropriately and right, but it's supposed to. It is supposed to be going live, and you can use them in any casino in Washington when you're on their network. How many draft picks do we have this year? 1, 2, 3, down to 4, down to 5th. I have to look it up actually. Four picks. We got our first, second, third rounder, 6th rounder. And we lost our 4th and 5th. And we already traded away our 7th rounder in an earlier deal. So 4 selections right now, Ola Greasy. Abby says, problem is we only got 4 draft picks and we need a center, right guard, cornerback, right running back, pass rusher. We need 5 positions. Yeah. Well, that's where we again come back to some of the prior discussion we're having on Arroyo with, if you had developed with some of this draft, you wouldn't be able to deal with as much of that. And there's gonna be some stuff we have to deal with, but I think we're fairly well stocked up. When it comes down to the team as a whole, Abdi, and every team is gonna have some positions they got to address through an off season. Bradford is on contract for next year. Sundell, and I think Olu's a free agent after this year. Is he? I think you still have Olu for another year. So I think technically you still have at least, Haynes. You've got some depth there. How much the quality lies, probably not great, but at least it's there, and you are working with something there a bit. So center right guard would be love to be able to address those. We'll see if the team holds that as something that's a high priority for them. Cornerback will be. Running back, this is where I come back to potentially a Walker contract could end up kind of solving some of this a bit, because now you put Walker on a contract extension. Charbonnet's back in the mix. You got Hololani McIntosh back next year. You kind of let everybody sort of fight it out a bit. You feel okay about that. One less thing you have to deal with. And then pass rushers, one that I think that they will have addressed before we get to the draft. I don't know if it's Crosby, but they will, I think, have it addressed. And you still are running back 3 edge rushers next year, as it stands right now, bare minimum. So a lot of work to be done, but they also got a lot of space, $70 million in cap space right now. They got a lot of means by which to do it. Yeah, Abdi's right. We only got 4 picks. We traded away one of our future 7s. And as Herbicide says, we'll be trading down for more. So the way that they'll probably work is they will move down in one of day 2 to get a couple of those picks back. Nathan says teams missing the playoffs. Talk draft now. Let's focus on winning now. Let's go. I can't remember who we traded our 7th round pick for, Space. This is them fighting where someone calls you an asshole. I'm going to lose my stuff. Kendrick says, hey, B, Linderbaum is a free agent if I'm not mistaken. You are correct. You think Seattle goes after him with the McDonald connection and Schneider going after Dahlman? You see it happening? I don't know why the Falcons would let go of Dahlman. Are the Bears in a tricky situation cap-wise? I can never find these stupid teams on here. Because Dahlman signed a multi-year deal in free agency. They do only have $1.2 million. Yeah, Dahlman's not going anywhere. Kendricks, they can't even trade him with the dead money that they're sitting on. So they're probably in a position to have to get funky with their cap. But Dahlman, I don't see a pathway for him to leave. On top of the fact that he's been a good center for them and they like what they're getting from him. Now, Linderbaum is a different story. Yeah, he is indeed a free agent. They have not been able to get a contract extension done with him. The Baltimore Ravens right now, when you look at their cap situation for 2026, they're in sitting okay space. They got $40 million right now. They can always convert base to bonus on Lamar's deal if they wanted to and free up some money there. They do have some big contracts kind of already in the books. Mark Andrews, Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton, Derrick Henry. So they do have some decent sized numbers on the books. Ronnie Staley as well, I throw there. Rashad Lindenbaum, Zay Flowers, Travis Jones, Isaiah Likely. These are all guys I think that they want to, kind of keep in tow. So if he gets on the open market, I'm running after him day one. I'm going to blow him out of the water with an offer instantaneously if I can. Seahawks have the cap space. It's no thing to us. And it frees us up in so many ways. I mean, you can now truly try to maybe throw a Sundell over into right guard and let him and Haynes and Bradford all duke it out there for next year, but you feel great about at least the center. So, okay, right guard maybe average, but everything else is going to be really good. I think we'll all take that at that point. So I would go that route, but Dahlman's not going. Oh, I think you were saying Schneider went after Dahlman last year because they did make a run at Dahlman in free agency. That's what you were saying, Kendrick. Sorry. Yes. Yeah, I see Linderbaum being probably priority free agent, priority target 1 for the Seahawks if he's going to get into free agency. Part of me is wondering why the Ravens aren't signing him to an extension, though, too. The guy's a first-round pick. You loved him, and you picked him early, and it's a center, and centers don't go in the first round, and he's performed really well for you. Is it all just down to the money's you just don't have enough money balanced book-wise to make it work because the cost is too much or you don't want to pay for centers? Or I'm kind of a little bit thrown off by that. The good thing is we don't need lots of positions, 3 to 5 positions. We can do that. Yeah, we can do that. It's all manageable. If the cap situation was in a tough space, Abdi, then that'd be the one thing with it. But right now you're sitting on the 7th amount most of cap space in the entire NFL next offseason. You have like $500,000 in dead money. And remember, in all of these years recently, we have been having so many seasons with huge dead money hits, including this year with $70 million. You're not going to be anywhere near that next year. Since Schneider doesn't pay a little lineman, we have to pick up good dudes in the draft. That's why I think Kendrick's point on this is kind of an important one because they did go after Dahlman. And the impression I got with Dahlman is he wanted to stay more in the Midwest than anything else. But they did make a run at him. Thug says Linderbaum's going to an excessive deal from one of those teams with $100+ million in cap. That part is true. There are some teams with some pretty good amount of cap space right now as it stands. The Titans have $108 million. They could make a run at him. The Raiders may not trust Jackson Power Johnson. They've got $107 million. They can make a run at him. Certainly the Chargers, what we know about them, I think they have an opening there, I think. Or they could upgrade the center there. Commanders got $81 million. Yeah, you're right. Hell, even the Rams at $80 million might make a run. Crafty says safety is the most underrated position in the sport. It's definitely one that's been devalued probably a little bit too far, a little bit like we saw the running back position get just devalued too far to where now teams were smart would find those market opportunities to give a little bit of money to some great, still the high quality backs in this league. Things kind of get taken a little too far from a narrative or a general rule of thumb standpoint. I think that has probably happened a bit with the safeties, especially now with the need, Crafty, of this isn't the old school safeties. This is neither you're a free or you're a strong, you're a box or you're a center fielder. Now you got to be both those things. Now you got to be, yes, all of it. Jamar says, Colts lost their minds. What on God's green earth is making them think trotting out Grams Rivers out there is a good idea? Oh, and Brett Rippon's the fallback. I mean, the ideal coming into this year, Jamora, was we're going to have Daniel Jones probably beat out Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson will get another year to sit there and kind of develop. And if we have to bring Anthony back out onto the field to fill in for Daniel at one point for a couple games, we'll have him run a lot of the RPO type stuff. And he can do that. We don't have to worry about him getting beat up or knocked out because we just need him for a couple of games. And then we can get back to Daniel Jones. And then if, God forbid, we really got to get to the third guy, we'll go to Riley Leonard. So you lost Anthony Richardson with the eye incident, and then you've got Riley Leonard on that PCL. And Leonard, I think the big fly in the ointment here with Riley Leonard is that if he was a gunslinger back there, he had a big arm, I think you'd probably be in a position to be like, well, we can get around that PCL, but he's going to need to do the RPO stuff you would have Richardson do to probably be successful. And if you can't do that, now you're getting desperate. And Brett Rippon's not the answer. And they're going, look, Brett's going to be Max Brosmer 2.0. Can Phillip Rivers not be Max Brosmer 2.0 for us this next week? That maybe gives us a chance. I mean, it's desperate. Don't get me wrong, but I can see at least how they've arrived there is there's not many teams that have really a plan in place for a quarterback 4 on their roster as it is. And nor is this time of year as you're this deep into the season, Jamora, where quarterbacks are off the board, can't make a trade, no trade deadline deals. You're in kind of a pickle at that point. Joe Smith says, Hawks Nest. Suppose, hypothetically, we had gotten Max Crosby. Would that significantly change your assessment of our chances against the Rams? Or is your concern on the offensive side? Great question. I don't think it would change my assessment onto playing the Rams. The Crosby thing is more about a generalized, this is a move to take you over the top. I get into a Super Bowl and I need guys to make a play. Difference makers like that will burst and give you those moments in how you need it, versus it being more of a roll of the dice if you're having kind of the guy out there that's sort of, he's all right. He's pretty good, but that guy can kind of go quiet too in those games when he goes up against top end competition, top end tackle play in the Super Bowl. Is you're going to face a hell of an opponent on that other side of it when you get to that lay of the land, or a conference championship when you get to that lay of the land. So it's more about the generalized what it would take as far as the top end of the season, more than the individual game of the Rams per se. It certainly would help you on being able to create the pressure with him up against this Rams team. I think that'd be a problem for them to have to deal with. I wasn't really necessarily super worried about the defense, and that's why he had to come in here. It was more about it's an opportunity with Crosby at that moment, Joe, to get a guy that will improve your edge. Edge isn't bad. You're doing good there, but improves your edge, and it gives you a long-term answer there in that improvement, because you're going to have to address this at one point or another, somewhere or another. So it was going to be kind of something that was going to come up one time or another, so you could kind of get out ahead of it a little bit on that one with it. Offensively, yeah, I think that there's still just the wonder on offensively if, there's a couple little just minor questions I have to the offensive side of the ball. I mean, I'm unshakable when it comes to defense or special teams, but offense, you certainly go, okay, pass protection, we get in the playoffs, is it going to hold up fully? Like, our team's blitzing us, or we're going to be able to handle that with our protections? It's one of my big problems. Can we find running the ball, not only being consistent at it, but it not just being an explosiveness in the running, but you're actually getting grinded out kind of yards. You're getting into more of the third makeable situations. And then, of course, with, seeing Sam and being able to play lights brightest and being able to prove the doubters wrong is, kind of that final point of it. But it's not a major concern to that side. It's good question. I don't know if I have a great answer on that, but I think you're improved a little bit in having Crosby versus what you have right now, just because that's a difference-making edge guy. But the edges have held up pretty good too. Nicholas, we had snow last week, B. Sounds like it's going to be a long winter up north. Long winter. Ryan says, be prepared for the first pick to not be an O lineman. It's very true. It took us 10 years to get him to take a guard in the first round, man. He's going to be like, look, you guys come back in 5 years. I want my edge. Give me my edge. Abby, that proven life. He didn't draft O-line. He did with Charles Cross. He did. 3 years ago, he kind of started to make more of that change into drafting these linemen high, which has been very cool to see. Philip at Atmospheric Rivers coming to a town. Yeah, I think edge or cornerback is if we keep that first round pick, corner's definitely in play too. Just as the issue with Arroyo is not that Arroyo is not good. The issue is whether that pick could have been a better use for us now, like depth, O-line for exactly. It's not just the one thing; it's also the counter and how you could have used it in other ways. And I want Brown beat John about. He's had a really great year. He's up for probably executive of the year. You're not going to get every decision perfect, but it was a little bit of a head scratcher in the moment when you made the two selections a little bit too. Visor of Flicks says, I think we should activate Riley Mills so we can have extra bodies just in case we don't win in the division, and just in case Cat or Byron gets hurt. I think that the team is definitely open to the possibility of a visor. The key on this deal with Riley Mills is that if you keep him unactivated this year, you get to keep a year of club control so that he doesn't hit free agency a year early. And so if you go out there and you play him for a couple of games, this whole year counts as a register against that free agent period, and you lose that season for a couple of games at the end where he's going to be a back end rotation body along the defensive line. I think the teams, as they're turning this over right now, to your point, is going, well, he could definitely help out the depth. I mean, he's going to be better than, but even in that, you kind of wonder on this visor, it's like, he's not a nose tackle. He's a 3-tech. You got Leonard Williams at 3-tech. You have Byron Murphy at 3-tech. You got Jaron Reed really rocking a lot of 3-tech reps. Is there enough reps there for him at 3-tech to validate doing that? And I think that the team's probably torn on this one a little bit. But we'll learn soon, as you've got that, I think, 21-day period after you're out there practicing for the team to decide that or not. I think visor, some of this is the team paying attention to the injury situation. And, Jaron Reed had a setback with the arm, or if there was an injury to Big Cat or Byron, that I think he would have already been activated. But I think they're trying to kind of, if they can, hold that extra year of eligibility out, because it's kind of valuable. Lots of mocks, say cornerback round 1. I could really see it, because I think you're not necessarily looking at, there's a really good chance you could see both Woolen and Job get priced out of our market, especially if we're trying to put that money in other places. Not every team hits on every pick, Nathan. You're right about that. Just a crapshoot sometimes. And you're going to miss on some, but you get so many more right than not. I'm going to laud you as a general manager. I'm going to give you credit. Yeah. Is the thing. My thing with Shaheed is that I can see other teams raising the price of him to where he isn't worth it for us to overpay him. I think we're in that position to where, and we're going to be getting this in the offseason pretty heavily, but I really do believe that even with the $73.6 million of cap space the Seahawks have, there is a theoretical way for them to kind of game the system a little bit, to moving and taking advantage of the compensatory system this offseason, to maximize 4 compensatory picks in return, because there's guys like Shaheed that, like, to your point, you could see him get priced out. You could see a Woolen get priced out. I think a Job could get a contract that surprises a lot of people here in the chat. Kobe Bryant is going to get probably a nice contract out in free agency. There's kind of quietly a lot of guys out there that can end up picking up big deals that if you didn't do a lot to the reverse side of that on free agency and just kind of in-house sign guys and made a trade for a guy, I think you could kind of game the system a little bit here and come out the other end of it with those picks. But it's also a little bit of kind of money ball way of rolling it, I suppose, too. But Thug, I do the thugs. I know thugs. Okay, I'm gonna go thugs with it. I do see it the same way. It's very possible a team looks at him and goes, we love what you're going to bring, and you got the special teams value too. You're pretty young. It's going to have to be a deal that's kind of somewhat economical for Seattle to pull it off with JSN needing to have his deal done. Shane says, why not get Crosby in free agency? Because he's got some more years left on his deal. Crosby is currently signed through 2029, Shane. So you'd have to wait a good period of time to do that. And Brian, yeah, it's a very deep cornerback room. Look, first couple guys I've looked at have been pretty good, which just leads me to believe it's probably going to be pretty solid. Koken says, your prayer for my fantasy team work. Saquon, Kelsey, and Texans kicker couldn't overcome my Devontae Smith and 26-point lead. Let's go. I got Megan up deck. I got Megan on deck this week, folks. Me and the mod going head-to-head in fantasy this week. Got her earlier this year. She's coming back. I'm trying to go on my magical playoff run. There's an 11 seed. Morris is Cassius Howe. Looks like Von Miller to me. Ooh, I'm excited to check that out. Still getting into I'm about 45 prospects deep right now. Nicholas Crosby will never leave the Raiders. I think he's a good chance he will. I think he's getting about ready to want to go win somewhere. We'll see though. Hand grenade B, trade proposal. 2 firsts, 2 fourths for Crosby. First for JPJ. Crosby and JPJ. So 2 firsts, 2 fourths for Crosby, and then a first for JPJ. Thoughts? Well, definitely right now with Jackson Powers Johnson, his trade value for the Raiders' perspective is probably like a late third rounder, maybe fourth rounder at this point. Maybe fourth rounder might be the best they can get for him in return. Crosby's probably going to command 2 first-round picks and maybe a little bit more, but some of that depends upon if Crosby's going to insist upon wanting a contract extension or if he will play on his pre-existing deal. That's hard to say where Crosby would be at from a mentality standpoint on that trade, and that would be a big driver to how much you'd have to give up, because the more you're going to have to pay back Crosby versus getting a discount, the less capital you give up. The more you're able to get him to play on the current deal he's on, probably the more the Raiders are going to say you're going to have to give up to them to make it worth their while. And there's going to be competition for his services too. But yeah, you're in the neighborhood there. But I think JPJ is coming off season-ending surgery and not even yet finding a home at center. It's these kind of trades that it's like when you drive a car off the lot. You can be a former second-round pick just 2 years ago, but once the car leaves the lot, and loses like what they say 60, 70% of his value or something like that. Thug says to play devil's advocate with Milroe because I never wanted him. Sanders was there. So if you're trying to say Milroe wasn't a pick, wasn't a wasted pick, why not pick Sanders? I think the upside between the two guys of Sanders and Milroe are one that most NFL teams would say that there's a significant more upside. I mean, I think that there's a lot of conspiracy going around Sanders right now, and you're not going to find a bigger conspiracy guy than me in this world. But some of it I also just don't quite understand with Shedeur. I do think that there's some weird stuff going on with Stefanski in Cleveland with Shedeur and him not playing him on that. But this is specifically, I'd reference Thugs to where Shedeur is drafted, why he fell in the draft the way he did, how the interview process and the background checks went with it, and what you need to bring to the quarterback position. And there's a lot there. There's a lot there with that. So I do think that with Milroe, Milroe was not a guy that was going to last into probably the fourth round. And if he was going to last very early in the fourth round, he was going to go. Sanders kind of went where the NFL determined he should go. And I know he's been playing some decent ball and giving them some signs of life there in Cleveland, but I think that's as much about how bad the quarterback's play has been in Cleveland as much as it's how, necessarily good Shedeur's necessarily playing. Mick Brewer. Hey, Brandon, have you seen any Ruben Bain film yet? Yeah, I like Ruben Bain quite a bit. He is a unique edge. We are in the age right now of reborn edges that are going to be bigger than we've ever seen, even in the days of the old 4-3 defenses with the big edges. It's kind of wild to watch where this has happened over and over here, where just every draft now it seems like there's 4 or 5 guys that you're just going, man. I'm kind of blown away a little bit by how these guys are able to operate off of that size and do what they do. What also makes it very hard to make determinations and assessment about a guy when he's 280 pounds working off the edge, and that you don't have a lot of a track record of guys like that transitioning in the NFL and really working greatly. But we have now some examples of times of guys now starting to come in the league. Nick Scorton and Shamar Stewart last year. We're getting more of them. Ruben Bain might be in his own kind of category from those guys, in that he might have more of that upside to him. I don't want to put this comp out there and that this is where I see this guy, but I see some little traits and elements in his game of a Reggie White, of a guy that's at this real big size for an edge, who can play inside as a 3 tech, has the really big size off the edge, but then gives you just enough of that first step quickness and some dip and some bend that he shouldn't have for a guy as big as him. And because he's always got the power he can call upon, it isn't as much as the dip and bend is nasty and it's elite. It isn't. It's that you have to load so much up for the guy's freaking heavy hands and his power. Then now as he gets that edge and he shows a little bit of that ghost move as he brings it around, you're made to look silly as an offensive lineman, because he's just got you so loaded up for the power to come. There's not a lot of pass rush moves with him. He's got a long way to go in development. There's going to be you're going to see a lot of variance in how he's assessed, where people are going to look at the production and be like, this is all fanciful daydream stuff. I don't have enough really production wise to back up him being this top 5, top 6 pick. But some of that's also born out of the fact that this is a weaker draft. You can see here, these are my defensive players I've got, and this is the beginning of my horizontal board as I'm beginning to kind of put it together. You can see defensively, I've got if I have a guy that's going to be a blue chip prospect, I'm going to highlight them like this, where they're in bold. But you can see I got no blue chip prospects. These are first round graded guys. Some of these guys have some really nice upside to them. But I don't necessarily have the blue chip grades thrown on them. And these are introductory grades. These are the initial looks. I'm going to do a lot more film study on all of these guys down the line. It's just kind of getting that initial look. And then this is the offensive side of the ball. And where I find myself at that off the initial assessment there with these guys. I got 4 first round receivers. Really like those guys. But then there's kind of a dip to me between the first round receivers and your second, and your third and fourth round guys. I have kind of a dead space right now with some of the receivers, and some of these guys have some definitive holes in their game that a lot of people out there are liking quite a bit. Your Chris Bell types, for instance, on that. But Ruben's a fun player. I like what he brings to the table quite a bit. I think he is going to be far off the board by the time that we select, because people are going to just end up falling in love with his traits. And he's got that Reggie White kind of body. I think he's even got the hump move. He can bring out here and there from time to time, even the old Reggie hump, where you get the guy with the one arm and you just kind of sling him from the inside shoulder, throw him outwards. But really fun player, first round grade that I put on him. I've only got one other edge right now, David Bailey, with the first round graded edge. But he's a lot of fun. I'll tell you that. Just lose, baby. New Raiders motto. Raiders are a crap show, man. Catalyst. I think a guy like Avion Terrell would be near our first round pick. Or Cassius Howe. Haven't looked at Cassius Howe yet. I'm as well a little bit early on in the corners, though. I need to get into the corners a little bit more. I've looked at just Mansour, Delane, and I have looked at Avion Terrell. Actually, I forgot to take a look at him. Come on, sucker. Oh, God. Come on. There we go. So we got 5'11", 180. Aggressive, just a little undersized. Terrell is best as an off zone corner. Intuitive post snap, having a feel for route concepts, like he can sense a tell of the receiver. That same recognition works for him as a run defender. Despite being just a tad smaller, he can deliver the big hits, tackles with great form, and will find his chance to get to rip the ball out for a fumble. In press, he can get more grabby and less comfortable, but still able to execute. Good ball skills, and from the looks of it, nearly a 40-inch vertical leap to sky with the biggest receivers, nearly a fourth of his snaps from the slot last season, and he does have that as a fallback if he can't work as an outside corner. I think he must go to the right zone scheme, but he should work on the outside. So to my eyes on it, in the lookout on film with him was, you saw last week with his brother, number one, AJ Terrell, his brother came out of Clemson as well. And we got to see last week with AJ Terrell that with the tackling with him, he kind of tackles like a corner. I think his brother actually tackles better. He might have better ball skills than AJ Terrell as well. And remember, AJ was in the late first round pick there too at Catalyst. So I do think Avion's going to be a first round guy. I think he probably is off the board by the time Seahawks select at this point, because I think teams are going to have a similar outlook, that they're going to see a guy that AJ's a first round guy that's validated that first round form with his coverage skills and how good he is at that. This guy, we've got very much same kind of coverage skills with him too. Only now we get ball skills on top of this. And now we get tackling on top of this. And that's going to probably vault him up into more of a probably top 20-ish range, more than where we're selecting, just by my first look at him. As well as I don't know if he would be as attractive to us for, you don't want to run him in press. We like to run press one side, off coverage the other side, and kind of fluctuate that a little bit between our corners. I think that Mike might be a little bit hesitant with guys that are going to get grabby and very uncomfortable in press coverage. I think with Avion, you would want him in a scheme where he's mainly in off coverage, like 80% of the time, if he could, 70% of the time. So I think he might be attacked if you do try to put him in press coverage. He's not the biggest guy, not the longest guy in there. That's why he played a little bit of slot. It's also where I don't think might fit as much as us, because Catalyst, he probably is going to play some slot for whatever team he goes to. We wouldn't need him to do that. Good player, though. Brian says Sanders is going to get him fired. They'll replace him next season. I don't know, Nicholas. We'll see on that, man. I think that there was a trade on the table at the deadline that I think Crosby was more than willing to move, and I think it was as much that it got shot down by Carroll as anybody else there. But we'll find out with it. Hello, Mom. Flying up in the air right now. Aloha. Aloha, Mom. And I'm behind on some donos. My bad here. Hope you're doing well. Love you. Love, love, love. Jeffrey Thistle, thank you for the $10 donation, Jeffrey. I appreciate you for that. We will find out everything we need to know about Sam against the Rams. I don't need him to single-handedly beat them. I just need him to not be the reason we lose. Wish our quarterback pick in last year's draft was offensive lineman. Yeah, I do too, man. I come back to it, and now when I still shake my head a little bit and hope Milroe turns out great long-term. I hope we can move him for a first-round pick, or he's our quarterback of the future, or whatever the hell that goes down with. But that we'll get to learn that that's the way that situation settles out long-term. And I think you mention a good thing. I think a lot of people are going to get caught up in that matchup about how much Sam needs to beat this Rams team and take them down and prove this and prove that. And I think it's it's as much of prove that you can understand you can play to your defense here. Prove to understand that you're playing at home in that game, and you've got a rushing attack that's getting better as the season goes along. And then it's not all on your back to get this done, and that you have grown your game. Like we saw last week, where all season long, unwilling to use his legs at every turn. I've said the book's out on him. Got to see three scrambles in the game, 23 yards. I mean, that might as well, from Sam's perspective, be him running 9 times in a game out of read option for 110 yards. As far as an equivalency goes by versus how little he really does use his legs. So I agree with you on that, Jeffrey. I mean, I'm not a big on like Sam's had his number against the Rams, but I do think that that's more of a beyond the Rams thing. This is more of the thing that we've seen at times this year. The reason that your defense isn't the number one scoring defense in the NFL, the reason I've got to get into a silly debate with Jesse last night on the round table about the fact that the Texans aren't a better defense than the Seahawks, is because of how many short fields your offense has put that defense upon. You know, how how many mistakes you've made at your side of the field, not just turnovers, but turnovers on your side of the field. And a lot of that stuff was controllable in so many ways. So it's something to monitor and watch as we come up in a week and a half. Something I'm going to be paying very close attention to as well. And something I'm hoping with Sam, don't need you to play safe. Don't need you to play scared, but I do need you to play to understanding that, you know, in a game like this and games going in the playoffs, you got that defense. You got that kind of crew that can hold it down. You're going to need to score some points, but you're not going to need to score every drive. You're not going to need to force things. Just let the game come to you. Thank you for another $5 donation, Jeffrey. I hope Seahawks, not just Sam, understands the weight the fan base and national media is putting on our Rams matchup. Not a week to come out flat. No, it's going to be hyped up like the first one was. In fact, this one will probably go even higher with it being a primetime matchup. And, maybe it'll be nice a little bit with this, Jeffrey, that it gets to come on a Thursday where the turnaround time is so fast that Sam and company and everyone else doesn't have so much extra time to really turn over a lot of things. You're just on to the next game, and it's just kind of automatic mode a little bit. But it's going to get hyped up for that couple of days leading up to it. You better believe that. Yeah, I would say so. Thank you, Jeffrey. Appreciate all of your support, brother. You're kind as always. Nice to meet you, man. Very, very, very kind of you. Can't come out flat. And I think from Kubiak's standpoint, he'd be well aided here, Jeffrey, to work a game plan against that Rams defense, the short basing passing attack, play action rollouts from under center, get Sam some easy completions, even if it's just a 3-yard gain and the guy's tackled instantly. Get him some nice, easy throws to start out the game. Try to lean into that running game. Attack that light box of the Rams as you see it here and there early on. Come out just trying to take a little bit of that weight off the shoulders a bit. That's kind of what I'm saying. Jeffrey with another $5 donation. Jeffrey, you are an awesome man. Says, if the Colts start Mr. Rivers, we're going to send him right back to retirement inside the first half. Bradford plays better next to Sundell. Hope he plays. Yeah, you're thinking, I think, the same thing I am, which is that Sundell, rather than right guard, goes to center. And those guys seem to combo up pretty good early on in the year. Sundell was coming on pretty strong right before his injury as well. He seemed like he was getting to be better and better and more comfortable in where he was situated. And hard to see this, man, where you got a guy 45, and I know he plays so much of the NFL, and he's probably kept himself in pretty decent shape, but coming in end of the year, lost 5 years in this league as the sport just gets faster, quicker, bigger, badder. And you've had no training camp. You're just coming off cold. It's kind of wild. It's kind of wild. I can't blame the Colts for what they're doing, but it's hard to see this as a move that's like tactically brilliant and not just, as I called it earlier, a Hail Mary from the 40 in your own territory, and you got a quarterback with a 40-yard arm. That's what this feels like equivalency wise, which coincidentally, Rivers probably can't throw it at this point past 40 yards. On top of being not the most mobile of guys. I mean, let's face it, I wasn't a guy that like had a hand cannon back there when he was in his early 20s. That thing's always been a little bit of it's about placement and anticipation with him. Thank you, Mom. J Melfair, thank you for the $5 donation, Jay. Will the D-line be liable for elder abuse this Sunday if Rivers plays? Checking liability and safety issues. Well, he's probably going to have to sign a couple waivers, I'm going to say, on this one. And boy, you do worry about an older guy like this getting hit from the wrong angle. I think back. Why? Here's I actually have been to the future. Unfortunately, I can only use a black and white camera. And this is actually, it's not letting me do it. This is what he's going to look like here. This is going to be, it's going to be Rivers this week. He's going to get YA tittled. And this is YA tittle, as you can see here at the end of his career. He retired from football the next year. No shocker here. He's got blood coming out of two different areas. He's tired. He's exhausted. There's no better image in NFL history that's ever captured "I think I'm done" than this picture right here. And I think we're going to get a little bit of that with Phillip this next week. I think there's a reason why we haven't seen quarterbacks shut it down for 4 years and then come back out. Even the great ones. They'll talk about it. You'll hear guys talking like Troy Aikman be like, yeah, well, he gave me the call and I was thinking, and I was definitely thinking, but somebody ends up talking some sense into him. Elder abuse is right. They put him out there. It's not us. It's not our fault. It's on you, Andy. Lou, thank you for 17 months, over a year as a Hawks Nest member. Thank you for that. And by the way, Hawks Nest members, we've got a Thursday call-in show tomorrow at 5 o'clock. So I posted that on your community post right now. Take a look at your community post. I'll repost that again, if not tonight, tomorrow. I'll get that out to you guys. But at 5 o'clock, members of the channel, please keep an eye on your community post as we are going to be doing a call-in show. You want to chop it up and talk Hawks about where the season's going, what you think about this team, what they need to do moving forward. Lou says, Demon Wari was a steal in the draft. Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think he's got as good a track as anybody else out there to say that I deserve to be it. He has been instantaneously really, 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 really good right out of the jump. And he continues to just get better and better and better. Show me a rookie that's had more impact. Yeah, I know Pierce and Walker have their sack numbers there, but in Demon Wari, you have a complete player in what he's bringing, including the block kick this last week. I think that if he can continue to finish off this season strong, he's going to have as good an argument as anybody, Lou. I don't think that there's been a corner out there that's more deserving. I don't think there's going to be another safety out there we're going to talk about, or, Carson Schweichinger is going to get some love there with Cleveland. So that's one guy out there to consider a little bit, but I'll take Eamon season over his. He'll have the tackling numbers, but I'll take Demon Wari over that. Mumbles, thank you for the $10 donation. Mumbles, good to see you in the house too. Says, think Jalen Sundell can be a long-term option at center with his play right before he got hurt. So we're missing what? Edge, corner, right guard, running back. That's not a ton to miss on, so not too stressed on that. No, you're in a good position. This is why John's willing to move those picks and why you only have 4 picks for the upcoming draft, is that you've got yourself well situated as far as your team goes and what replacements you are going to need. Number one, you're sitting on $75 million. So you can buy and pay for whatever you need to top off the spots of your roster you do need. Corner, I think I would put safety in there too, Mumbles, because Kobe Bryant's going to be a free agent, and I don't think the team's going to sign Kobe to a extension. I think they're going to want to keep Eamon Wari. I'm calling him Wari now all the time, Lou. I think they're going to want to keep Eamon Wari in at the slot. So they're probably going to go into the draft and get a safety from somewhere or free agency. But corner, safety, maybe right guard. Bradford is under contract for another year. And yes, I would expect running back is going to get addressed in this draft somewhere. Where exactly at, I'm not sure on that. Some of this depends on the Walker foot that needs to drop, no pun intended. Sundell might be the long-term option for us at center. I don't know if he's ever going to be rounding into a guy at the center position in the sport that we look at as a top 10 guy. He may be. I think we would be perfectly happy if we can just give him to top 15. So I think there's a bit of a restriction to the ceiling that he can provide. But with that said, he was getting better as the year went along. He is pretty new to the position. So probably I should have a little bit more imagination in my own mind that he can continue to grow and maybe can continue to get better. I will say about the thing I like about Sundell is he is a pure athletic fit, and his ability to move in space from that center position is a very nice thing for this offense to be able to have. And you could call it almost just about a prerequisite to make this running system work, because it wants mobile offensive linemen, it wants athletic linemen, it wants a center that can snap the ball and then pull it back out in front and be that front side puller. So he can do that. And I could see him developing in that way, but it's hard to say right now quite yet, Mumbles, if he's that, because he started out the year a little bit in that rough place of where we've been with the center position in recent years, kind of rated him that 32, 33, 34 ranked spot where he's there. And it got better as the year went along, and he had some really solid games, and then the injury hit. So it probably takes all of the year in assessment on that one to really figure out where Sundell sits on the pecking order long term. I do think he's a center, though, not guard, as we look at it long term. But you got that right. And yeah, edge is another one we'll need to do. We just need one. Mafe goes in free agency. Hall, Uchenna, and DeMarcus Lawrence are all coming back next year, as long as DeMarcus, of course, doesn't potentially try to retire. Don't do that, DeMarcus. We need you. 20-25 snaps a game. Come on back. Mumbles, thank you for another $5 donation. Also, where'd that poll for the defenders at? The tsunami's got to be there. Yeah, we got to run the poll here at some point. Probably a little late here today to do it, but we will get this Sunday. We'll try to roll the poll out. I got to find a site where I can put all of the names so we can run the poll on a site because they only give you 4 options, Mumbles, on the YouTuber, which sucks. I want the depth of options, So we'll see if I can find a poll site that I can use. There's got to be something out there, There's every other site out there. There's got to be something for that. But Tsunami was I think the leader in the clubhouse. I think that was the one that most people were like, I do kind of like that one, especially with the SEA on it. Tsunami, come on into Lumen Field. Feel the rain at your back. The wind blowing hard. Do you sense it? Can you feel it? The tsunami. Appreciate you though, Mumbles. Thank you for the double dome, no man. You're awesome, bro. Awesome. Appreciate you. Don't at me. Thanks for the $5 donation. It says, with Okada's play, is he in a sense playing for a spot next year with Kobe hitting free agency? Could be. I think he's definitely made that from a discussion point of there's no chance in bloody hell at the start of this year that you're thinking of that long term. Don't at me too. Hmm. Well, I mean, hmm. I would say it wouldn't surprise me if the team walked around on this and said, we're going to run with Akata at free safety, and then we're going to move now Julian into more of the strong safety-ish role. You do different things. You're going to do free safety stuff in this defense as a strong safety. You're going to do strong safety stuff as a free safety in this defense. So it's kind of really just a more of a semantic game, or it's like just a label game as much as anything else. You do both. But could I see the team take that approach to it? Yes, I could, because there is a process here to where, as much as you having the money to spend as you do, and there being limited positions that you have to fill, if you go big with that money, if you're going to sign 3 monster contracts between Cross and JSN and Witherspoon, which I'm expecting, and you make a big move for a Crosby, and you have to sign a couple of other positions out of necessity, like a cornerback, just to make sure you've got something reinforced if you lose both Joe, Ben, Woolen. Money could go relatively fast. And with only 4 picks, maybe those picks got to go for a running back and this and that and this and the other. And now you're left with kind of the musical chairs game where safety becomes the one still walking around looking for a chair, and there's nowhere to sit because you've used up all the money and all the draft capital on the other stuff. And then at that point, the team goes, okay, I guess Ty Akata and Julian are going to be the safeties. I don't think that's the way it plays out, but I could see that that's kind of what they end up running into when it just the rubber meets the road on the offseason a little bit. So it's a good like backup plan, but I think the ideal is to have Julian and then have another safety you bring in, and then you're able to have Ty as kind of the fill-in guy a little bit on that. But look, he's played a great ball and certainly has earned a right to be in the mix on that. And if it did go this way and the team's like, we trust in him and he's done enough to earn this opportunity, I would say I agree with you guys. He has done enough to earn that opportunity. So it's definitely an opinion, but it's one where I would certainly not be hard pressed to be moved off my spot off this if they said, no, we actually have a lot of faith that this could be great and that, our defense isn't going to take a step back in the least. We can keep taking the steps forward, in fact, because we're going to reinforce other positions on the defense and make them better. So I could see it. And it's definitely a defense with how much it plays to protection deep that can get away with not necessarily having the most uber talented guys out there at the safety position. And you're trying to counterbalance Julian Love's deal with a cheap deal to the other side, which final point on this, don't at me, would be you'd be able to do that Ty. Ty'd be going into a contract year, but he'd be pretty cheap. You could pay Julian. Now you're not paying 2 safeties at high-end money at the same time. Makes a lot of sense. It does. Thank you, though. Don't at me. Appreciate you. Bronze Hushes, go Hawks. Love the channel. Thank you, Bronze. Much love to you, too, as well. Thanks for showing all the love out there on the round table as well. Joe Hawksnest, I don't pretend to know more than General Manager John Schneider. I don't understand drafting 2 running backs in the second round and not building an offensive line. Want to run first team? Fine. Wouldn't you get the O-line for it? Well, I think your frustration is one that I've echoed many different times on this channel, many times over. And I think the interesting part for me and my perspective on looking at that situation was being open-minded to taking the 2 running backs, but also being aware of the very thorough rule that's been proven out pretty strongly over the last 10 years of football, in that it is strong offensive lines. It's a strong scheme. It can be defense, good quarterback play. These are the mitigating factors to getting top end running back production, and that it isn't just coming down to talent. When it comes to a receiver, I think there's more of that. It does, like, can you get open? Can you generate separation? Well, you'll find productivity. There'll be a, limitation maybe based on some other factors that come into play. But with running back, if you don't have those other factors, you're getting nothing done. Say nothing of getting the most out of me. I'm getting nothing done. I think John kind of went at this a little bit from the old school approach to this, where he had a team 10 years ago with Marshawn Lynch that was the heartbeat of their team, and it was the running back. And he probably got caught up conceptually in that from his imagination standpoint of, hey, that's a great thing to have. And at that time when you took Walker and Charbonnet, was Carroll here for Charbonnet? Yeah, I believe he was, right? Charbonnet's in 3rd year. So you also had Carroll there, remember, Joe, too. And we can't discount the fact that those, I know Schneider had a little bit more say at that time, but Carroll was still in his ear. Carroll, the first thing he did when he went to the Raiders is took Ashton Genty with a top 6 pick. And so certainly Carroll's been very much in this mode of running backs or the driver, still in that old school of it's not as much the O-line, it's the running back driving it thing. Well, hasn't proven out too well for Pete and with the Raiders either. Pick probably would have been better suited to be placed elsewhere because you might be wasting Genty's rookie contract because you might not get the O-line in place to get the most out of him. So it was one where I would like to think that John's learned his lesson on this. No other team in the last 10 years, except for Cincinnati, has taken running backs in the first or second round in back-to-back years. And I always say if no other NFL team is doing it, you probably don't want to be that trendsetter to be doing it. There's probably a reason so many teams aren't doing this given thing you're trying to do. And it was a little bit reactive to me. It was a little bit of old school in its thinking, and that's partly why you weren't able to better maximize it in certain ways. But they are talented running backs. You're starting to get a little bit more out of them now that you have the scheme. You're getting a little bit better run blocking. You're getting a little more improved quarterback play, and you're getting good defense. Now you're able to get the most out of them, and that's kind of the point. There is a difference in talent. There's a difference in running backs that can be better than the others, but no position can have its fangs pulled from its mouth quicker than the running back position if those other factors aren't at play. Well, the greases of this channel broke my podcast, Jerry. Let's go. Sean says, oh, yeah, Washington has to get all their taxes. I hate the state government so much. It's annoying for me, too, because they've been very late versus the rest of the states in the union on this one. And it's like, come on with the nanny state, Let's be grown-ass adults. Nathaniel says, I'm pumped for the game. It's my one annual game I attend. Let's go, Nathaniel. Get after it, man. What about Mike Jarrell? Does he get us a pick? I think there was maybe a thing with that. It was a conditional pick, Kendrick. So don't know what the conditions were on it. He's been on the roster, but he hasn't played. So I think that I want to say some of the conditions were that he had to play a little bit or something. It's not showing up right now as an active pick for them, though. That's 2027 too, Kendrick. That's also why. So 2027, 7th. Brian says, I'm still not seeing an official announcement about Cole's starting quarterback. Anybody? They're going to wait till the last second on that, Brian, because they're going to want Hawks preparing for both quarterbacks up until the last moment. Yeah, I like Sundell at center too, Jeffrey, if you can stay healthy. Mick Furr, do you understand the Mendoza hype, Brandon? I mean, he's good, but it's crazy where he's being projected. I don't think he's that great. Well, Mick, as you can see on my, and I got, by the way, guys, and I got more work to do on Mendoza and I got more work to do on Ty Simpson. Okay. But I'm not shying away from this thing at all. I'm not going to shy away from this outlook on these two guys at all. And as you can see on my horizontal board right here, I've got Simpson and Mendoza. For Mendoza's probably moved up over Simpson for me at this point. I don't know why I got him behind him there, but Mendoza would probably be my third round guy at the top, and then Simpson just behind him. But no, I don't really understand the hype. I understand that the team's been good, but no one can really come to me and look at and say a quarterback having his team playing great, even in a program that hasn't historically been a good program, is then a representation of that guy being a valued prospect. And that means that I should take from that there's value to him then as a prospect. It's a part of the assessment, but it's not going to carry the whole weight of the assessment. And I think with Mendoza, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to try to have that sort of care. It's Indiana, and look what he did with Indiana. There's going to be a lot of that, and that's fine. But like that doesn't come down to the bottom line of like, all right, where are we at with the offense they're running and how that translates to the pros, mobility, arm strength, accuracy, throwing on the move, working through progression reads. There's some things here with Mendoza that you can go down the line with on, and I just think there's some question marks there with him on that. Doesn't mean he's a bad prospect, but we were talking last time they've seen roundtables. It was mentioned like maybe like a Kirk Cousins-ish type sort of thing you have there, and like I like that comp. Kirk Cousins win the third round. That's kind of where that skill set should go. He's a rhythm-based pocket passer with prototypical size. He looks to hit his first read and he lets it rip with some slight plus arm strength. Not quite a quick release, but on the faster side, which really aids on the bubble screen type throws. Throws a tight spiral, catchable ball. Quick in his decision making, willing to throw with anticipation. I feel like he's very close to a statue in the pocket. No quicks, no burst, very little elusiveness. His arm strength wanes when he's falling off his back foot or moving a little bit to his right off platform. And it's only slightly above average as is, so it really loses a lot. Not really an improviser. There's kind of comes from a little bit of that Jared Goff school of or Kirk Cousins, where it's like rhythm-based, back foot, got to let it go. That's fine. But I can take that quarterback kind of only so far in the pros, where I got to work everything kind of around what you need me to do for you as an OC versus you're going to clean some things up for me as an OC throughout the course of the game here and there. And there's a little bit that to his game with maybe some of the throws with anticipation and ball placement at times when he's got a good chance to sit back and let it rip. But he's one of those guys I've seen through and watching this through the years and doing this investment. It happens every year at times, happens every couple of years. Guys, there's certain quarterbacks that get falsely, artificially inflated. And you can see right on the surface of it happening and going, well, this is not a hard one to see of how it's happening. And it's the desperation right now. There are teams at the top of this draft that are desperate for quarterbacks. And it's going to force these guys to get vaulted up. Doesn't mean they should. You got to be more certain about your assessment than you do about, well, just what you do. I mean, it's just if you got the guy there, you just got to go take him. It's like, be a little more imaginative than that. Alpha Sucks and mock draft, just bring back Keenan. No need to spend a premium pick on a running back in a relatively weak class when you've got a talented one in-house who's getting better every day in the scheme. Beautifully put. Beautifully put. Where's my button?
Enough said.
Enough said. Enough said, Alpha. 100% with you on that. Joseph, this is another feature of the Arroyo pick. Had we gotten a serviceable right guard, for example, the next offseason would be that much easier comparatively. Exactly. Yeah. I think that's you're capturing well where the frustration kind of lies on this one, where it's not just this pick for that, but it's also now one more thing you got to probably deal with into the offseason there. Yeah. I think Arroyo will develop long-term though, too. And I think he will be a threat in this offense long-term, but I think it's going to take a little bit of time. And I don't know if he's ever going to be anything close to a sort of centerpiece of the offense. Because I did the calculation for franchise tag right now. Woolen's price is 24.64. Yeah. That's where I come back to more of like a Walker guy would be the one in alignment for that. Because I think the franchise for a running back is going to be Thugs, 17, something like that, 16. Can't see them doing that. I think you let Reek walk. Nathan says it's crazy that was Shaheed's first kickoff return for a touchdown in the NFL. Man, he made it look easy. Ryan, we have the players to create an above-average offensive line. Time together and patience is required. Well said. Yeah, Kendricks, it was right. Read that report too. I misread your deal a little bit early on, so sorry about that. Yeah, they did go after Drew Dalman last year. They gave a run at it. Yeah, that Shaheed return was effing awesome. Electrifying. He is fast. Yeah, he's got that easy speed. Doug says, I'm so tired of waiting on offensive line. Just draft required top-end talent. No DVE, done with it. You're getting close, man. We got center right guard are almost kind of fulfilled on this. And maybe it's in-house. Maybe they do something with it. But we finally have at least from where it was 10 years ago, where it was for a 10-year period at times, and being just completely thrown on the back burner time and time again. It's cool to see. Abdi Brand, we lost our 7th round pick from the Roy Robertson Harris trade we acquired. That's right. Yeah. I'm getting the entire airplane to sun. Joseph, if you want a running team, you need O-line more than Arroyo. So it's not that Arroyo is not good. It's about understanding our position and the identity we want. Well said. We lost our 7th round because of Roy Robertson. We swapped our 7th round for 6th round this year for Cleveland Brown. That's how it worked out for 2024. From 24 of these draft 2026. Yeah. So some complicated back end deals we've done the last couple of years to kind of remove some of these picks and flip this for that. Rises beat that roundtable last night, got a little bet happy. Oh, it's you guys 12 coming in there with your donations. Like, Brandon, you can do a half bet with him. Now do the half bet with this guy. Y'all are putting me in this pickle. You know, I can't say no to y'all. At the same time, everybody's coming in like, do this one with this guy. Like, guy's gonna have me. This is gonna end next year with me streaking butt naked through the center of Seattle somehow. I can already see this is gonna escalate very quickly, Brian. And yes, it got very bad happy last night on the round table. The season for your boy is gonna end up real nice or real rough. Because Dolman's probably pretty happy with the decision for now. Bears winning games. I'm not convinced that they'll last, though. They got the Browns, Packers, 49ers, Lions finish off the season. Yeah, we'll see with the Bears. I do feel like they've been playing a little bit on bonus territory this year so far from where they were really at from a program standpoint. This would be a beautiful situation, Thugs. Just imagine if Brian walks and Downs just falls into our lap. When I've done my Madden drafts after my first season, I always come back around to looking at getting Caleb Downs, where I'd always find a way back over to him. And, you know, what we know about top end safeties like that is that there are guys that don't tend to go in the top 15, top 20, that you're going to be able to find them in the 20s. And if that was a guy you were able to move off from Brian to go to Downs, that'd be a hell of a transition there to go from that to that. I love Downs. He's a fun player. He might go top 12, but remember with this, Brian, that a question for, hold on here. So you got in the last decade, Brian, you've got around 3 to 5, depending on what you want to count, guys, as far as taking in the top 15 of the first round of the NFL draft. That's a 10-year period. You got Minkah Fitzpatrick, Jamal Adams, Derwin James, and that's kind of about it. You could go Hamilton in there too. That's 4. But that's 10-year period. Derwin went 17, so that's not top 15 technically. Very close, right? But it's one of the positions devalued as ever right now. I don't know. Hard to say on that one. Look at a guy like Eamon Wari last year falling out of the first round. It's still kind of one of those positions that can be still devalued. Abdi says best part are Seahawks deep in safety, Kobe Bryant, Julian Love, Okada, and Nick Eamon Wari, Brendan. Indeed, yep. We will lose. Kobe's a free agent after the year, Abdi. So you do have all 3 of those guys coming back. And I think with Eamon Wari, they want to keep him mainly in the slot. He'll always be a jack of all trades, move him all over the place to a degree. but he's going to make his money. He's going to cut his teeth as a slot 85% of the time. But as Ola Greasy says, we're very blessed to have the team we do. I really hope you all are appreciating this. Is one of the best seasons we've had in Hawk history. It's a fun team to root for. It's a complete team. They're blowing teams out. It's been a very satisfying year. Hopefully it has been for you guys too on that. Noob Nick. With how much I heard, the Seahawks are a team to watch before the trade deadline. I would think all signs point to this being a year where Schneider may pay more for a free agent than years past. It's a good point. And if you're looking to have the confidence to feel like you can make those moves in free agency and actually do something with a little bit more noise, a team coming off this season like we are certainly would be a year that would give you that confidence, to your point. On top of which, you actually have the money this year. There's been a lot of times through these years where there's been a lot of restrictions. Near the end of the Legion of Boom era, it was the expensive contracts on the books. Then you had this kind of succession of years where it was Russell Wilson's dead money, and then Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs' dead money. And then this year it's Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Geno Smith, and Draymond Jones's dead money. And then you're never really in a position to really go out there and throw the money down on the table. This year, you're going to be able to. Nathan says Rivers gets the ball quickly. He does. And this does pair well nicely, I will say, with the Indianapolis Colts offense, and that it's built to do this. The Indianapolis Colts offense is fourth in the NFL at 2.7 seconds on average on passing attempts, getting the ball out of the quarterback's hand. So he's going to be able to slide in there. He's got some familiarity with this offense. It should be a game you can get after him, but there's some things in this that does work in Phillips' favor to be able to hit this proverbial ground running a little bit. Not saying he's going to light it up, but just, I don't think we're going to just get nothing out there either. Certainly would like Brett Rippon, I think, instead. Abby says, let John Schneider cook. We got the best GM and underrated GM in the league. I love it, man. I think you're right about that. Well, Greasy says, can you imagine being stuck with the Jets or Cincinnati or the Raiders? I mean, there's a lot of these teams out there, and they're all greasy. You're like, oof, there is no light at the end of that tunnel. Appreciate you, Joe. Thank you, man. And yeah, it's got to appreciate what you got. We've had bad ownership. We've had a bad organization. We've had the Ken Behring years. We've been there. We didn't have to last a long time there, but we lasted long enough for all of us. We all felt very dirty after that experience. Let's keep these the ownerships great moving forward now, please. Noob says, I like Max Crosby, but with how the season's gone, do you think we should have traded for Micah Parsons? Ignore if you already answered. Oh, no worries. I was in favor of making a run at Parsons. I think that the cost was not too great to do that. I think the team kicked the tires on it. And I think that they just didn't factor in right. I think as much as anything with Micah, it wasn't the trade stuff on this noob. It was as much John Schneider's talked about not wanting to trade for a player and then make him the highest paid player in the team, or go and give a guy a contract right after you trade for him. Kind of as it can send a bad message, especially a team like this, for instance, noob, where you have so many guys that are going to be due to be paid here real soon. And you're going, wait, you're going to pay him before you pay me? Haven't I earned this? Haven't I put the work in for you to pay me? With Crosby, that's where this gets interesting, because with Crosby, he just technically did a new extension here at the start of this last year. You could get him in now without having to give him a new deal in that first season. You can get him in at a pretty economical cost. It's very much in the favor of the Hawks as far as on the cap goes, bringing him in Crosby at that point. So some of those prior issues that existed in going out for Micah don't exist with Max. And that, we know with John, he's never going to shy away from giving out draft capital for a player he believes in. But I think he did learn a lesson with Percy Harvin and going, there's other teams that this has also not worked out in their favor, taking that kind of role with. Better to have the guy come in, prove himself, and then the extension comes down the line. So I think he generally moves in that flavor, and Micah was going to get a deal, whoever moved for him. Ryan says, hot take, lose Walker in free agency and trade for Breece Hall. Could do it. Definitely could do it. There's a couple options. I think A-Chain is another guy to pay attention to, Brian, with Miami. It's going into the last year of his deal down there. Reportedly, Seattle was interested in him at the deadline too. Luke says we could beat the Rams as long as Sam doesn't piss his pants first. Them. Abdi is not only Phillip Rivers, Gardner might not be out, Ward and cornerback Chris Lemons, all starters on defense out for these Hawks games. You got DeForest Buckner coming back off the neck injury. Abdi, yeah, their Colts have been regressing, and the injuries are coming up too at the same time. Crosby would love to hit old man Stat Padford. Yes, he would. Lou says, we play in the hardest division in football, and our coach has 10 wins each of his first 2 seasons. We got it. Good. That too. How about that? 10 wins first 2 years. Nicholas, I really don't understand people's thought process on Crosby going anywhere than he already is. He's a Raider for life, but won't leave Raiders ever. It's honestly baffling how people think he'll leave. I'm not sure why you I don't know if you've listened to some of his interviews this season and the body language after the games and where he's at mind wise, but he's giving a lot of indications that he's kind of getting tired of losing. I'm not sure why the Raider for life thing is, players often say they want to be a player here for life. It's all players say that that's rarely ever proven to really be true. It's something they say, it's rarely ever proven to be true. We'll see how it goes. His career is winding down. You think, Nicholas, he so much wants to be in Vegas that he wants to play for a loser the rest of his life? I don't know that that's his heartily where he wants to be. He's under contract to 2029. They could do that. They could essentially hold him through the rest of his career and have him be on loser. But I don't think that's where he wants to go. But this is also where it's conjecture and it's fun. But we'll learn this offseason a little bit more clear. Again, too, I think the part maybe you're missing on with it, we were making trade overtures for the Raiders. Like there was honest discussion going backwards and forwards, and Crosby didn't come in that deal and cut that down. We would have gotten the reports that was the case. So that leads me to believe that if by inference, at least there was a little bit of maybe some interest to go to a program like Seattle. Not that he's trying to force his way out of town, but that he's open to it. But we'll see on this, Nicholas. Stay warm out there, my man. Stay warm. It's going to be a hardy one, it sounds like. It seems like we started drafting offensive line right around the time Pete was demoted. Yes. Yeah. The reports were at this point, the vice presidency kind of after that Russell Wilson year got taken away and John was given more of the power at that point. And then you're right. We saw immediately a draft where you go first round to Charles Cross and then you go third round to Abraham Lucas. I mean, you just turn right around and hammer it in a way you hadn't done anything like that in that prior 10-year period where Pete did have that control and power. So I think that there was something to that. Joe says, I like General Manager John Schneider generally. I'm very happy with him on the whole. Me too. I think he does a very good job. Nathan says, I'm reading the Rivers is getting quarterback 1 reps in practice. I think it's trending to him being the starter. If I was laying bets down right now, I'd say it's probably very likely that he is going to be the guy that's going to make it roll. Brian says exactly be too many reasons to not activate Mills except in case of injury. Yeah. And that's where they come down the end point of the season, I think, and you're going, all right, these guys have held up well. Let's just watch them down the home run. And we got them here in the back pocket if we have to. We don't want to, it's the in case of glass break, but we'd like to keep this glass unbroken to get that extra contract year with Riley. And it's a little money ballish, but Riley says Leonard can't go. It's got to be ripping. I think they wouldn't be bringing Rivers out unless the intention was to play Rivers. And it just seems like that's where they're driving to. Yep. Jay Shire's definitely shining. If you had to choose, have Chip Kelly as your head coach or Jason Brown for last chance to you, laughing out. Tough choice, man. That's a tough choice. Probably I guess Chip. As long as I'm in college. I could see Sheed signing him deep. Definitely could see him staying back with Seattle. And they get the deal done. Just comes down to what he's going to want. What's he going to get on the open market? Dog says, B, it is Nick Guzman. I'm on my work computer and not sure why it's showing my username. Oh, all right. What's up, Nick? Shows that we have to remember also that last April we did not know we were going to be 10 wins with 4 games left and the number 1 seed in play. It's true. This was the best possible kind of outlook, I'm sure, even from the front office perspective on how they thought the season could go. Irrelevant says draft Jacob during Rodriguez if Drake Thomas signs somewhere else. He's a fun player. Do you think we're going to be able to bring back Drake? Irrelevant. So we'll have still Drake and we'll still have Tyrese Knight on the roster. I think you're going to be able to restrict tag Drake. Charlie says Sam Darnold make a break the Seahawks. Very well, good. Very well, good. Roy, thank you for the $10 donation. Roy says thoughts on Dunker, projected as a right guard, late first, early second. I've seen him mock the Hawks. I'm told he's a scheme fit. I have not looked at him. Iowa kid here, Jennings Dunker. That's an offensive line name right there, Roy. Let me do me this favor, Roy. You don't have to on the next one put a dono in. Let me take a look at him. Let me take a look at him for the next show, Roy. So ask me, even if you want to ask me on a B&B show tomorrow, I'll look for it in the chat. And I'll respond to it there as well. Just kind of looking at a little bit of the initial profile here. And I would say that, yeah, I mean, I believe with Iowa, they run a heavy amount of zone. I mean, I think that if I'm not mistaken, Iowa is just like 24 zone out there in what they run. So right guard that's already been very fluent in a system that's so hardly a zone fit scheme. Also a system that is so run heavy that this is a guy that you're going to get that's not your normal typical lineman that's been patty caking in spread concepts 24/7. He's going to be a guy that's had some under center stuff and he's run the zone stuff, and it's going to look very NFL like on tape with him on the kind of blocking assignments he's going to pull from that. So while I haven't necessarily been able to see his tape, those couple of factors, knowing Iowa can churn out usually some really good quality caliber NFL linemen, knowing they run so much zone, knowing they have so much of a commitment to running the ball. On the surface of it, I can't give you the details of him as a player quite yet because I haven't had a chance to look at him. But on the surface of it, that would certainly be a very good fit. And it's looking like second, third round, as I was just reading a second ago, there is kind of the variance of where people see him going at this point. So, yeah, on the surface of it, that looks about right. And I would say just from a conceptual standpoint, Roy, whether it's Dunker or a player that we could fit into being Dunker, this is the approach that I'd like to see the team take with the offensive line. Every year, put a day 2 pick over onto the offensive line. Every year, at least until you have this thing fully solidified. Yeah. Until you've got a position that's not being rated as one of the weakest in the league, or 2 positions rated as some of the weakest in the league, which is kind of how it's been even this year with the center and right guard at times. Right guard's gotten better and center will make things a little bit better. But to me, until you get the thing fully solidified, just go, okay, look, John, I'm not going to ask you to do 2 of your 3 day 2 picks. Just give me 1. Target 1 in there. And it doesn't mean they all are going to hit. But if we can get the same kind of hit rate that we've had since that Charles Cross draft, Charles Cross first round, Abraham Lucas third round, Gray Zabel in the first round, and then we've got Christian Haynes in the third round. Okay, so 3 of the 4 hit. That's your miss rate. I'm okay with that. I'll keep taking swings on. That's why I say almost it could be an every year thing, Roy, where it sort of builds in a little bit of the miss rate that can be in there with that. But this kind of player is exactly that. And then when you do target him, if you can find the one that, to your point, is the pure scheme fit, that's got the zone background, that can do the run blocking you need to do for an offense that wants to be run heavy, then pay that little bit of extra more than you'd like to ideally pay to go up and get him. If it's a guy that 30 teams are looking as more of the early third, take him in that late second. They're seeing it as a late second. Maybe you get hopscotched on him and somebody piggybacks you to go grab him. Move up in the second to go get him. Target the right place like you did with Eamon for a potential player like that, especially for a guy who can be an instantaneous starter, an instantaneous upgrade. Help to turn this offensive line, God forbid, into a strength. Can you only imagine what that would look like, huh, Roy? So sorry I haven't had a chance to look at him. I got him down though on my notes, on my list of guys to look at. I am knee deep in college scouting. I'll trying to knock a couple out a day if I can right now, and starting to prepare for this early on so I can get ahead of this because I'm already a little behind on this. Quite honestly, Roy, I've been a little bit lazy on getting up on top of these ones, but he's on my list. I'll take a look at him, and I love the name. That's a starting right guard name right there. Jennings Dunker with a G. It's a strong G. Strong G, Roy. Appreciate you, man. Hope you're having a good one, man. And again, if you want to come back even tomorrow, I'll take a look at him tonight, Roy. Hit me back in the chat tomorrow on B&B. I'll keep an eye on it. If you pop in there, I'll give you a quick little breakdown on him. No needed. Just put it in the regular comment section tomorrow, and I'll have you some notes on him. I'll take a look at him tonight. I want to be checking out these scheme fits, man. I want to see the perfect scheme fits that are exist in this draft where they may. B. Schneid, thank you for the $5 donation, B. Think Kenny Mack can consistently carry some of the load next year if Walker leaves and we don't get a surefire starter to backfill? Mack, Sharp split. My feeling on the surface of that one would be that you don't have quite enough there. Maybe you can add a third rail to that, and that's enough between the three different pieces to make it just enough quite work. But you're not necessarily going to have as much of, I think, the difference-making component as you've been able to have here when Walker's been in that backfield. You'll have some good grinders a little bit, in my opinion, there, Schneid. And with Mack coming off the ACL, every player just responds differently to the torn ACL. Every player takes different amount of time to come back to their full strength. Some guys never come back to the full strength. I think that question alone also kind of just opens you up to have to reinforce it with something else. And whatever you get with Max got to be looked at as bonus into the future. Be great if he can come back and be back strong. He's getting through the end of this rookie contract that he's on, so he's not really long for the Seahawks world as it is just in general terms. But I think I'd want to have a little bit more impact. So, I think it was Brian Myers mentioned above, like, making a trade for a Breece Hall or a Devon A-Chain. I think I would like having that a little bit more understanding. Again, we are finally now getting those other parts right to be able to take advantage of a top end running back talent. And while analytics have proven that simply going out there and getting the top running backs out there and expecting them to drive your running attack is false and will fail at every turn, if you can get the other parameters in place ahead of that really hyper-talented running back, a good offensive line, a solid offensive system, capable quarterback play, receivers that don't allow the defense to drive down and stack boxes, a defense that doesn't make you play from behind 24/7. If you can create those factors, now the difference-making running back can be maximized. A little bit like Saquon Barkley. With the Giants, wasn't a bad back. He could put up a 1,300 year in his best year on that rookie deal, but they weren't always able to fully really maximize him out either because of those limitations he was dealing with. And he goes to Philadelphia, and all those limitations are pulled off his back, and he has the best season of his career. So that does sit in my mind a little bit with the running back position. And if this was a team that was a little more pass happy, I wouldn't think this way. But because you're trying to lead with running the ball offensively, I think you got to have the guys that are the talented ball carriers to do that as we move forward, or that's just what's best. You can get by with lesser guys, but isn't it better when you get the talented guy? I mean, Shanahan for years got by with Raheem Mostert and Matt Breida, but he didn't hesitate in the least when he had that opportunity to go after McCaffrey, did he? When he knew he could get something that was a real, true, significant upgrade. But thank you, B-Shine. Appreciate you. Great question, man. Joseph, thanks for the $2 donation. Says, really wish we did better in the second, third round this year. You can watch my draft reaction this year, Joseph, live draft day, and you see me over the moon when it comes to Gray Zabel. You see me over the moon when it comes to Nikki Minwari. But you will then see me with my chat flaming me a little bit for it, and people were not happy at me for it, and people got on me for it with my reaction with Arroyo and with Milroe. because it's very hard for me to kind of fake it. It's what I feel is what I feel about stuff. And it's tough to, hide that a little bit. And not that I'd want to hide it from you guys. It is what it is. Opinion is not a great one on a prospect, or not as high as others are on it. I'll just tell you it is what it is with it, and would have been so nice to see in retrospect to be proven wrong on this. Did not want to be proven right on it. And it remains to be seen if it'll be proven right. I think there's more time for these guys that both with Arroyo and Milroe. It's about making picks that's as much for the future as it was for 2025. That can be frustrating, though, when you're going through 2025 and you're kicking butt, taking names, and you could use every hand on deck that's able to provide you some help to go in and win in football games. But I share your frustration. I get it. I don't think you're alone on it, Joseph. You did so many good things in this last draft, and you found a lot of great value elsewhere in spots. And I think we're going to look at this last draft as one of John's better ones when it's all said and done. But I think we are also going to have a lot of wonderment until those two picks kind of come to fruition in some more fuller fashion as to what could have been as an alternative approach than the one you necessarily took on those two picks. Totally get it, man. Thank you, Joseph. Because I'm sorry, B man is tattooed with a big Raiders logo. I just don't see him ever leaving the franchise. He just seems to have that hardcore loyalty. We'll see on it. It's possible. I think losing this often for this long can beat you down. And it's a long NFL season, losing every game by a truckload. And tattoos can be covered up. They can be lasered. Brian says, we don't need an aging elite edge. We need a rookie stud edge with a club control. The hard part about that is, Brian, is rookie edges don't tend to be that productive in that way. So it'd be great as an ideal, but that's kind of what you were trying to do with the Derek Hall, Boye, and Mafe situation, wasn't it? Like, it's what you end up when you draft these young edges. The tendency is more often than not, you got to wait for the production to come. You don't tend to get them out of the box where they're just rolling. Joseph, from where we're at now, I'd say the picks after the spring are worth more. Our team will get expensive, and we're going to need cheap young talent. Crosby's boss, but we're elite D without. It's a fair point. Totally fair point. Always with you. I honestly don't think Crosby wants to be a Seahawk. I want players who want to be here. We'll see on that. I don't know if I'm not sure I've heard him say he doesn't want to be. But a lot of people feel like he's going to ride or die. So we'll see. I'll go with you guys on it. I'm going off as much NFL history as this individual guy, and that individual history like Crosby, where he's at right now, where it does tend to go this way. But look, Myles Garrett was also at that crossroads last year, and he decided to take the alternative path too. Relevance is Bane as a dog, and Cash is Hal. Cash is Hal is the next one too. I got to put on my list here. So I've heard that name brought up a couple times today, and I've also heard it offhand, and I haven't looked him up. So I got to take a look at him as well. Melfair, teams win by using their own draft picks and developing talent. I want us to keep being prudent with our picks and not taking shortcuts. Developing talent is what good coaching staffs do. So you have to check out outside linebacker, defensive end, Averill Reese out of Ohio State. Ohio State has some great secondary players too. Yep. Well, they got a lot of fun teams. I've looked at both the two linebackers actually. So Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles. True hybrid inside linebacker edge, capable of playing both positions at the next level. Tall, thin, game works off explosive power. I'd call it easy power, quite frankly. Good athleticism for his size. In addition to that, he really bullies guys at the point of contact off the edge. When that initial bang happens, he always seems to send the edge backwards in a hurry. Sets a strong edge with his power and length. Raw as a pass rusher as far as moves goes, but understandable because he's done so little of it. He's been more of an off-ball linebacker type in his history. He's got some real solid shuttle steps and instincts as a linebacker. He can dip blocks or take them on with that same easy power he shows off the edge. He's got good instincts as a spot dropper, though the deeper the drop, the more likely a completion can be had. Run game instincts are strong in general, whether diagnosing the play or playing off the edge. I think there's some similar transitions here for Averill that was what we saw from Micah Parsons or Carter last year. He might end up just making a full-time transition to edge and then used only a smattering of snaps at Mike because the upside might be more and the position is more valuable off the edge. So I think he's got as much same kind of transition that we saw Micah Parsons make coming out of Penn State. I think this guy's much more likely to be closer akin to that than he's to be akin to Carter, who went last year. I think he's got just a little bit more length. I think he could end up adding another 10, 15 pounds onto his frame very easily and not miss a beat as far as his quickness and athleticism. He's kind of a little bit thin. He's a thin 6'4", 240 guy, but tremendous player, puzzle piece kind of guy you could use all over the place. Be great in this game, in our defense, irrelevant. But he is probably also likely to be top 2 selection right now in the next draft. King Modern finally been able to catch the stream. Let's go, King. Joseph Crosby's consistently said he wants to be rated for life despite coaching carousel, despite losses. Loyalty is very commendable, but losing enough can change your mind. You may want to win. Yeah, it's one where it's to me, it's long season again. When you just imagine as a defensive player being able to play on a team where you get to pin your ears back and pass rush first. We're down in this game again. We've thrown our heart on the line again, beat down again. They're running the ball on us in the third quarter, and they're hammering us in the run game and hammering us in the run game and hammering us in the run game after game after. I mean, maybe he's just of that mindset of his own unique cat who isn't wired that way. But I think most players in NFL history, they're really good players in a position or a system like that, eventually do kind of arrive at the point where they're like, okay, give me a chance to win. Yeah, Brian, I see him. I don't think he gets out of the top 3. King, no first round lineman. Not yet. I haven't looked at, I got Spencer Fano. I'll have some tackles. The Proctor kid will be a first rounder. I haven't looked at him yet, but based on what I'm reading, he's probably going to be a first rounder. So there'll be some tackles in there. I'm just getting into it's such a process trying to get into all these prospects. So just starting to kind of dip my toes in the water. Doug says Terrell reminded me of a slightly smaller but faster Spoon. I think he's going to probably test pretty similar speed-wise to where Spoon was at. They're kind of 2 different corners for me, Thugs. Spoon was an outside man cover corner, line him in press and let him run. Terrell's more of an off-cover corner that you want to keep in zone. Both of them have some fluidity to playing in the slot, but I would say they are a little bit different in what they do best. Catalyst is Noah from Penn State's probably the best guard. The Ione kid. I think that's what you mean. He might be. I think I got him as my highest guy on my board. Casey, appreciate your film breakdown, beat. My pleasure, Casey. Thank you, man. About Christian Haynes, I think he's on the outside looking in this puzzle right now. Well, there's time. I just don't think he's found much footing here with the team on this. He's still under contract, though, so he's not going anywhere. Yeah, Drake will be back. Drake's a restricted free agent. Very true. God and Thomas, restricted free agents. Both of them probably end up coming back. Joe says, who on a roster is Skeletor to Eamonwari's He-Man? I don't know. I guess that's got to be JSN, I guess, huh? Jackson? Jesse was just being a hawk hater. He knows the truth. He was. I know. He's trying to trigger me with that. Jesse with always his like one detail drives my whole point on what I think about something. It's like, here's all this data. Yeah, I use this one data point here. It's like it's so frustrating. Oh, it's so frustrating. King, we were getting in a debate last night about who's the best defense in the NFL. So the Hawks are the best defense in the NFL. He's like, well, the points per game. So Hawks have 17 point whatever points per game, and the Texans have like 16 points per game. There's a point difference between them, which is obviously easily explainable by the fact that the Hawk offense has put the Seahawks defense on a short field how many times? There's a kick return. There's Darnold getting strip sacked in the end zone, recovered by the Texans, touchdown for the Texans. That counts against the Hawks defense. You know, you remove like just a quarter of some of those short fields you put the defense on, and we're far and away the best points per defense. But, you know, what else? There's so many other statistical bearings you can use to try to determine this beyond just points per game, which for that very reason, because there's other things that come into the points per game than just the defense being great. That's why I use other statistical points of bearing. You know, that's why I think, you know, Jesse should be open to doing that too as well, but he's not, you know what I mean? So it's like when I look at this DVOA, for instance, here's another point, you know, where it's like first in DVOA defense, first in DVOA passing offense, first in DVOA rushing offense. Like, should that factor at all or just not? That's worth nothing. That's points per game. So there was a little bit of a fun debate last night going back and forth on that one. Much as Yobi, what's up with Jesse? Feels like he's a little jealous because Hawk fans actually respect him like Niners. Yeah, I mean, it's always when you're going through some things where there's difficult discussions in the fan base and you're trying and you've got a very strong opinion about something and you kind of plant your flag on something, you believe it. There's just friction. And I've had my moments of friction with the fan base too when I've put my, I mean, we're talking about one just in this stream alone, Nacho, you know, where during the draft, there was a lot of friction between me and some of the Seahawks fans out there because of my reaction to Milroe and Arroyo picks, you know, and it is a bit of the nature of that beast there. I don't think so. I just think it's with Jesse. I think there's some frustration there with this Niner team feeling like it's a little bit the end of its run and it's still good. And there's still a lot there that is good with the team. But at the same point in time, you know, it kind of is going to reach its end state at some point or another. And you're going to be without a championship with that. And you're gonna have to kind of reset this all back through and start the process over again. And it's not a fun knowing you're kind of going through that long process. I think that's as much bright weighing in his mind as anything else. Nicholas says him and the rest of the roundtable crew need to get with reality. Once we beat them both at the end of the season, we'll be number one. Everyone else will be home crying. I hope so, man. I got a couple hat bets on the line that need this to be the truth. I mean, Texans D is better in every category. Every category? I mean, again, I just showed one category there where they weren't. So it's good defense. I don't think that they're better than Seattle. I don't think if I went to 30, the other 30 NFL teams and I said, you can have the Seahawks defense, or you can have the Houston Texans defense. Which one do you want? I don't think anybody's taking the Texans defense over ours. That's obviously me just throwing a basic, unprovable take out there. Yeah, you'll have to run me by what you mean by King in the better stat. We've given up slightly more passing yardage. We've given up less rushing yardage than they have. But I mean, we could go through a lot of other things like EPAs and DVOAs and PFF score. I mean, there's so many other, all of those data points point to Seahawks defense being the better defense. Oli says weather is going to be nasty more than likely. I think it's going to need to be a ground and pound kind of game against the Rams. That's what I'm hearing. Sounds like the weather is going to be lining up to be pretty tough, which I don't think that works out well necessarily in the Rams' favor in that way, and it could work out in our favor really well. King, he made it sound like they were in their own league laughing out loud. He did kind of, yes. That's why I was drawing a little bit of like, wait, what? Callis says the Rams will be better in the ground game because their O-line is way better run blocking unit. It's a place where that's going to be the challenge for us in that Rams game. We did a good job in the first game of keeping it fairly well limited, but the Rams are going to come in with that as a centerpiece. King says, but I don't want Jesse respecting the Seahawks because every time he talks them up, we play like S. Lou says rivers flow deep. Philip can't throw deep. No, he can't. And that arm's going to be a little limited. You guys like my YA tittle? Yeah, don't. I mean, we'll see on the Love and Okada. I think that's the fallback plan, but I think they will look to try to find something as a true replacement for Bryant when it's all said and done. King says if we can win the next 3 games, Rams lose to the Lions, Niners to the Bears, Green Bay and Bears both drop a game, we could have the number 1 seed locked up before week 18. Ooh. Hadn't thought about that. Hadn't even considered that. Interesting, King. Rams lose to the Lions. Niners lose to the Bears. Green Bay and Bears both drop a game. Bowl all feasible. Very feasible. Jay Melfair, did you see the Rivers interview? He looks more like a Great Lake than a river right now. We're bringing the rim shot out today, guys. Krusty says, it seems like the passing game was great while Sundell's there. Yeah, he's been his best as a pass blocking center. Run blocking's been a little more hit and miss at times. Kendrick, who is the one player from this upcoming draft you do not want to see the Rams draft? I don't have a blue chip player in this first round yet, Kendrick. And I think that to your heart of your question, Rams are going to get probably the 6th or 7th overall pick in the first round. And my worry in looking at them having that pick would be to say, oh my God, they're going to go get a blue chip player. But what's really going to probably happen here is that they're more likely going to be fitted to a situation that we saw the Detroit Lions face a couple of years ago, Kendricks, where they're picking at a point. There's not going to be a Jalen Carter there, but they're picking at a point. We've taken a Devin Witherspoon, and you're going, okay, well, do you want Tyree Wilson or do you want Christian Gonzalez, or is there a player that I'm looking at in this upcoming draft that's got me like fearful in my heart that the Rams are going to take him? Not really. Not really. I think the closest I could come is to take a Proctor or a Fanu, for the right tackle position. Havenstein's been a little bit of more of a question mark in recent times. So them going with an offensive lineman, but even those guys, I don't think I'm going to have a blue chip grade on them. So they're getting a solid player, but they're not getting what they would have gotten in other years of a draft if they were picking in that place, where it would have been a true blue chipper, a true difference maker, and probably an instantaneous difference maker at that. It's a good year to have them being picking in the top 6, just like there are those years where it's bad to be picking in the top 10. Brian says Averill Reese is a hell no for me with the Rams. I guess that'd be probably a good one, Kendricks. I keep just thinking that there's just no way he's going to last that long. It's such a weak draft, and he's such an easy kind of no-brainer sort of prospect that just these guys are valued. They're not going to drip. They get snatched up quick. Casey's his number 1 seed equals home game. That's right. Last 3 times, Casey. Last 3 times we had the number 1 seed. We went to the Super Bowl. Catalyst is Abel and Zundel both bulk up and get stronger in the run game. We're looking good. Yes, sir. Certainly in Zabel's case, as he's just transitioning from tackle, I'd expect that's going to be the case. I'd love Caleb Downs irrelevant. He's awesome. If we can get him, yes. Yes. Caleb Downs is like a top 5, top 10 pick, isn't he? I mean, in theory, in this draft, yes. In theory, that worthy of being that type of pick with this draft being a lesser year, Aaron, yeah. I am fitting a little bit to that conventional norms thing where teams just tend to, overlook these kind of guys and let them fall a little bit. And it's oddly so. It's a devalued position in the NFL. The same thing kind of happens with running back at times. So there are those times where randomly, like we've seen here with the running back, where Bijan goes here or a Jahmyr Gibbs goes there. But then there is the by and large rule of thumb on this one. So it gets hard to say on that one with him how this is going to play out. Safeties don't tend to go that high, a little bit weaker draft. His talent's really true and real, and that he's deserving of being a first round pick bare minimum. So maybe that's enough to have him elevated in this upcoming draft in that way. I don't think he lasts to our pick, probably. If I was a betting man, bare minimum, a guy like this is probably going to go in the teens. Some of it might be based on how he runs and goes out there and puts a 4.4 time up, probably solidifies himself as a top 12, top 10 pick, runs more of like what we've seen Hamilton run a couple of 4.65. Maybe that pushes him down into more of just a first round pick. Those kind of things can be enough of a thing to move the needle a little bit one way or the other. Kevin, we are winning Sunday, no doubt. Are we winning Sunday? Well, I'll just go to Conan and let Conan tell you what's going to go on Sunday.
Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women.
So we're going to have Philip Rivers' wife lamentating. I didn't say lactating. I said lamentating. Lamenting. Not lamentating, lamenting. Mumbles, seen Bootleg Sports do that on the Patreon without it cost anything to vote. Would it be that working option B? I'll look into it for sure. I'll find something. I've been meaning to look into this, so we'll try to get something set up for this next Sunday. It'd be a fun day to do it for. I think Mumbles and try to see if I'll have. I've done a little look in the past, but there's got to be something out there I can find. Irrelevant says you should add Caleb Downs to your watch list. B. I've watched him, my man. I got him right here. This is my horizontal board. Offense, defense. You can see I got Caleb Downs right there in the first round. Don't have a blue chip grade on him, Irrelevant, but I do got him in the first for sure. For sure. I don't know if I will have a blue chip grade in this draft, to be honest with you. Still a bit of a question in my mind if I'm going to do that. Joseph Crosby could see a Hawk playoff game this season in disguise at Lumen. He may very well want to come. That could very well sell him. Plus Mike D, proven coach, elite D coach. Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't me either, man. I wouldn't surprise me if he wanted to stay and that he seems to be a guy wired in his own particular way. But given history and given what he's gone through and given where we're at and given that we know John's hot to trot for him, and then remember when John gets hot to trot for guys, he stays on top of them. That's the part of this that we haven't talked about to consider. He wanted Marshawn Lynch for a very long time before the Bills finally moved Marshawn Lynch. He wanted Percy Harvin for a very long time before the Minnesota Vikings moved Percy Harvin. So it's a little bit about how John Schneider operates as well, is that when he gets somebody that he likes, he's like, yeah, I'm going to find a way. Antoine says, Brandon, the tough part about Milroe is if there is a revolving door and offensive coordinator, then that will significantly stunt his development. Won't help. To your point, definitely won't help. And that's where some of this is going to have to come from his own internal part of this. And I think that's where the development comes in a couple different places. There's the development within an offense and getting better within an offense and getting better at executing that offense you've had more time in. I think there's the other part of his development, which is the footwork, the consistency of release, throwing off platform, just operating with some of the finer tuned details of the position as far as fundamentals and replication of motion as much as anything else. He needs to have the repeatable throwing motion, not the one that every other throw looks a little bit more different. There is other parts of the development, but I think that there's some of that stuff in that little chamber of his game that he can work on that's sort of regardless of who the OC is. But you're not wrong. It doesn't help. progression to be flipping through different offensive coordinators constantly. Team Bomber says, by the way, there were 2 running back draft picks. I'd highly recommend reading the draft articles for those players, those years when they selected both those players. It screams Pete. Definitely screams Pete. I was predicting for a lot of people early on last year approaching the draft that they were going to take Austin Genty, and everybody's like, really? He's not going to do that. I'm like, this is an easy one, you guys. Easy one. King says, in the case of K9, they were debating about taking a lineman. I believe it was Cam Jurgens, and it seems like Carroll pushed towards K9. See it. This is just a nuanced perspective, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. Thank you, Nuance. Thank you, Catalyst. Oh, you're speaking to Joe. Sorry. I took credit for that, Joe. That was for you. Mick says, wow, Michigan just fired their head coach for having an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Yikes. You get sued for that type of stuff. And when they took Charbonnet, explicitly says they didn't want to take another running back, but Pete steps in and says, stick to the board and take Charbonnet. Ugh. Yikes. Yeah, dude, it's hard to analyze much of anything with John Schneider during the Carroll era because so much was Carroll. Hard to necessarily throw it all on John's plate. I hear you, Nicholas. I hear you, man. I do like I do like the guard. I don't have him, I think, as high as some of the other people do with Ione. Irrelevant. But he's a good player. I got him in the second round. He's solid. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't hate that as a pick. Not at all. Kingham, what do the Raiders do in their first year with Pete? Waste a pick on the running back, trade back twice, miss out on an opportunity to get Eamon Warriors, Weisinger, Simmons, or if Campbell, they moved up. Yeah, it was a bit of an odd draft from the Raiders. I think the team's going to reach for Ione as well. I think the big part of that, I think too, is just, I don't know if he's going to exactly be the fit here. Back to my notes on this. Kind of as best as a pass blocker. Not the most quick. There's some stuff with him on that where I think there's going to be another team that's going to value like maybe a gap-based team might like that, like him a little bit better. To your point, then reach up for him a little bit higher than where we might want to. We like him, but we're like, yeah, we're taking him, and there's some athletic limitations. There is some quickness limitations. He's not exactly at his best as a run blocker as he's a pass blocker. I like him, though. Don't get me wrong. He's a good player. So I don't want to seem like I'm just crapping on him, but that might make it a little bit hard on the where he falls for Seattle's assessment versus where he falls for another team's assessment. He says, I love Mike McDonald, but I worry about his eyes. Sometimes when I watch him, I start to pray in my head that he'll blink. Yeah, listen, I don't think Mendoza will be that good in McVay's offense. His lackluster mobility, and McVay moved off Goff for that reason. Yeah, and that's where I don't think some people were making that connection. PFF was saying that the Rams would like trade both their first round picks to go up number 1 overall to take Mendoza. I don't see that happening at all. At all. To your point, I mean, he's already been down this road with Goff before with this type of player type. He wanted to get off of that for something better. Why go back down that same road? 100% agree with you. I prefer if Jones was playing, we'd still beat them and everyone wouldn't be making excuses about the win with the Colts. Yeah, that's going to occur, O'Dwyer. I mean, that's what people are going to be saying in the lead up to the game of the Rams game if we win this game. Like, oh, all the easy opponents they've gone through. So it is going to be a bit there. Irrelevant, yeah. Tate Ratledge was available when we did pick Arroyo. And I did like Arroyo. I did like Ratledge as the pick instead of Arroyo. I thought that was kind of the no-brainer one there to grab. You would have solidified your left guard. You would have solidified your right guard for the future. You're set. I think to give John Schneider in the front office some credit on this one, I think there was maybe some concerns with Ratledge on the injury front, which might have been a mitigating factor. But then again, Arroyo had injuries. So you took the leap with this guy. Why wouldn't you take the leap with that guy? Who'd ever thought we'd be talking Phillip Rivers in 2025 and he's coming to Seattle? I was not on my bingo card. I could see the Rams drafting Caleb Downs as catalyst. That's possible. That would be a bit of a scary pick for them. Mars, by the way, Pat Ratledge's pass pro is comparable to Bradford. He's a pretty highly rated guy throughout the most of this year, too. Has been Ratledge in his rookie year. Sean Collins, Brandon, how important is Anthony Bradford for our tush push? Probably pretty important. He's a big, heavy-handed guard, as Mike McDonald talked about this last week. And when he can get his hands on you, he can push you. Sometimes it's a question about him getting his hands on you or not, but when you're in that close of a proximity, less space to have the width, much more of likelihood he's going to find accuracy. Was our O-line really that bad? Russell Wilson holding the ball forever never helped. Russell held on the ball long. Quarterbacks that hold on the ball longer are going to get sacked more. But I don't think that this is a chicken or the egg. I think both were an issue. Seattle took the approach, Noob, of we're going to pay our quarterback top-end money. Seattle took the approach of we want to pay for this defense and we want this badass defense that's going to have all these great players too. And then we want to have some receivers as well. And then, we need to have running back as well. You're going to have to pick somewhere on your roster you're going to go light if you're going to go that hard in so many other different areas. Seattle tactically chose for a long period of time for that to be the offensive line. They've changed their ways for the last 3 years. But yeah, for a long of that period, that's what was contributing to the factor at hand. And they thought Russell could clean a lot of that up with his scrambling. And he did for a long period of time. But you certainly weren't putting the same kind of investment. I think we put over the last 3 years more investment in the offensive line from a draft capital standpoint than we had for about a 8-year prior standpoint to that 3-year period. It really comes down, you want to build a great offensive line, Noob, you got to put the investment into it. That's the bottom line. There's not this other second, it's how do you develop this guy? Go get the diamond in the rough over here. Nope. You get the top end guys and you stack enough of them next to each other. There's your top end offensive line. Yeah. Mumbles, thank you for the $5 donation. Mumbles is getting draft vibes on the chat, dying on the Crosby Raiders for life hill. I didn't know that there was so many people that were so passionately of the opinion that there was no way this guy could ever leave. And look, he's contributed to it with what he said. So there's certainly some fuel to the fire for why folks are feeling that this is the case. But my twinging little tuning fork of a gut does not twinge in the direction of feeling like he's just going to hang out there for the next 3 years into the craptasticville and be like, yeah, I'm cool. I just love Vegas that much. I think you get to that point where you go, yeah. And I'll tell you guys, there is a little bit of a canary in the coal mine here, because when the Raiders reworked his contract last year, they didn't throw a new bunch of bonus money on top of that contract. They just guaranteed the deal. And so in doing that, they made it much more feasible from their side of this to move the deal. It felt like a contract when you look at it as the numbers and how it was put together, because these kind of deals are not assembled in this way. It felt like the type of deal that was like, we're going to get you on a new contract. We're going to get you to guaranteed money, but we're also give each of us an out in case this doesn't work, to not have to force you into a place where you got to play for life in a bad situation. It's just my kind of outlook on this as a possibility by the way this looks. It's a little bit informed by that contract a bit. We'll just see how it plays out. Maybe the folks that are certain on this are right on that, and then we see that he doesn't want to go anywhere, and that's what it is. I just, NFL historically wise is not one where the players just go, I want to be here. There's a lot of players that say I want to be here for life who end up moving on. There's a lot of players that say I'll never go anywhere else who end up moving on. Just because a player says that, hardly ever ensures or guarantees that that's the way that that thing's going to roll when it's kind of all said and done on that. Thank you, though, Mumbles. Well said, man. O'Dwyer, thank you for the $5 donation. O'Dwyer doesn't got any note in there on your deal, O'Dwyer, but thank you for that $5, man. I appreciate you for that. Very, very kind of you. You guys are awesome as ever on that side of things with your support to this channel. I really appreciate you. Probably getting a little bit of a wrap up here as we get down to the end here. I've got an appointment I got to get out to about 3:30 here. Brian says, Rivers released as a carbon copy of my release. I had players make fun of me for that. That was one of the reasons I was gratified that he was so successful in the NFL. It's one of the more unusual releases we've seen in NFL history, but he made it work, Brian. If you throw it with accuracy and you throw it with anticipation, you can make it work. I think, King, we're going to see all three of those guys get contract extensions this year. I know they have the 2 years left, but I think the extensions get done. I don't think Cross gets a massive extension. Might be closer to a Pruitt deal, 240. I think you'd have to move him if you're down to try and offer him a 2-year contract. I think he's going to look at that and go, yeah, I don't know. Nah. I do think he's going to struggle to quite be the next breaker of the left tackle thing, King. Like he's next guy up, so he's the next guy to be like near highest paid. I don't think he gets quite that. We will see, Nicholas. We will see. Remember, man, you've been in here a lot of times with me before, right? And you've been in here a lot of times before where I've said, this is something I see happening. And so many people would say, like this offseason, when I say, I think the team's going to move Geno Smith and DK Metcalf. And so many people were so 100% sure that I was off my rocker on that one. There was no way that could happen. So the same kind of instinct I get on Crosby right now, not just to come to Seattle, but just to be moved in general this offseason, is that same instinct I had at that point this offseason. And it's guided me right for a lot of my time in doing this, but you might be right on that. I'll definitely give you props if he ends up even staying through just this offseason. I'd give you props because this would be the time to probably move him if you're going to move him from a Raider perspective. Hell, the trade deadline was probably the best time, but still a good time this offseason. Brian says people thinking the Raiders will be a loser forever are funny, not paying attention to how fast the team can turn around these days. I think teams can definitely turn around fast, and I think the Raiders are in a better position than they have ever been to start to turn things around. But I think that in a lot of ways, what they've done this season with Coach Carroll is reset the reset button on this thing needing the time it's going to take. And I don't think that just is one off season away, but more likely 2 to 3 off seasons away. And that's where we come down to the internal timeline on a guy like Crosby on that winding up like, okay, by the time you're 33 years old, then we'll finally be ready to just start to now compete for the playoffs. I mean, how close are they to overtaking the Chargers in that division? How close are they to overtaking the Chiefs in that division? How close are they overtaking the Denver? That's just the division. I mean, they're far and away clearly the last place team in that division again moving into next year. And that's even with the Chiefs falling back down, Nicholas, I understand Brandon's point of view, but a man doesn't get a tattoo like that unless he plans on staying. I can point to a lot of players that got tattoos in NFL history that ended up moving on from those teams and did so voluntarily. Tattoo, I don't think is the make or break on this of him staying or not, But again, I don't want to beat this, Nicholas, I don't want to beat this conversation to death. It's a guy that's on another player that we don't know whether or not he's going to be moved. It was really just it was much to be just a fun discussion point of whether or not it's a move to, I think getting caught up with Willie Wooney. It's a fun discussion move as much as anything about the proverbial of making a move for this type of player and what that addition does for the team, rather than just caught up on exactly this player and whether or not they're going to get to that stage. Because none of us know anything with that, and it can go any different way. The NFL has told us that many different times before. Yeah, Lou, I don't think Cross is going to necessarily get a top contract. I do think he's earned enough to get at least a payday, but we'll see where that lands between the team and him. Everybody gets got on the pass rush front. In best case, Woolen and Sheed both get 20 plus in the open market. Then two of the other four guys get 15 to 20, and Dirty gets hired as head coach. That's 3 third-round picks and 2 fourth-round picks. Janice is going to feast. I'd love to see that. I do think you could play a little bit of the compensatory game this offseason with all the extensions you have to give. And if you do make a trade for somebody, I think that there's definitely a way to kind of eat that cap space sort of artificially, but then play the game in a way to then flip those comp picks around and really maximize it. There's Seahawks. Let's go, B. Thanks for grinding out. I would never grind with you guys. It's always fun. Joe, a little bit of a revisable, interesting data. Approximately positional cost for franchise tag, running back 13.6. See, that's to me an easy Kenneth Walker on a 1 year, $13.6 million deal. It's like all day long. I'll do that all day long. I think the team probably moves on with Mafe. They were dangling him at the trade deadline. Dudes, with Mike Vidal now, we have a great trio of owner, general manager, president of football operations, and a head coach that'll make us 12s happy for a long time. Let's hope that when JA sells, that ship won't get upset. I don't think it will. I think she'll do right by us, man. She's done a great job here. Taking over for Paul. I think she'll continue to do so through the sale. I do think she will continue to do so through the sale. Have a good one, Irrelevant. Appreciate you. Greasy, appreciate you as well. Nicholas, it's only taken us 2 seasons to turn things around, so it's not necessarily true that the Raiders are going to suck forever. Again, let's not straw man, guys, because I see this forever. I don't think I've ever said this Raiders are going to suck forever, but they're going to suck for the immediate future. And when you look at our situation and try to put it as a representation of the Raiders situation, then that's just kind of blindly trying to go apples for apples between the two organizations, which I think is an incorrect outlook for it. There's a reason that this organization has been bad for a long period of time. There's a reason that they've moved from city to city and not able to find a landing spot. Teams can turn it around in the NFL in a couple of years, but I don't think that we can also speak about this like it's a guarantee that teams turn it around in a couple of years. And what we were able to do over the last few years in turning around our fate as we have is that we got rocket fuel injected into our boosters through the back of having the Russell Wilson trade that we were able to do to supercharge this. The Raiders don't have a supercharge. They're just going to have to do this off their own native picks. And there's a lot there that needs to, that whole defense just about outside of Max Crosby is just about going to need to be put all back together. What is it? Colton Miller is the only offensive line piece that they feel really, really great about right now. Maybe one other guy they feel kind of okay. Brock's nice. Feel good about that. What about the rest of the receiving room? Who's the guy they got in faith long-term there as far as receiving core go? They're far, far away. They don't have the rocket injector boosters to then kick them up that notch. So yes, teams can turn it around, but you have to have something as a basis for how they're going to turn that around. And when you're missing so much, when the cupboard is that bare and that empty, it's going to take the 3 years to get the cupboard stocked, especially when you took this first year and you kind of screwed the pooch by bringing in Carroll, by bringing in Chip Kelly, by drafting a running back at the top 10 pick when you had a lot of other bigger needs. That's the price to be paid when you make those kind of choices and decisions on that. And thank you for the $5 donation as we're going to kind of wrap this up here. So it did take us 2 less full seasons to turn things around, but that's, Nicholas, you can't forget that part. This is part of why I say that Crosby should be a move the Raiders think about doing, because it gives them that rocket fuel they need right now. They don't need to just run through their native picks and hope that they can just hit those picks. They need a lot if they want to try to supercharge this thing. And if they don't want to supercharge this thing, then it's going to take time to get it that place. I think that they're in the best position they've ever been. But I do think that as well, in addition to that, that it's going to take time because of how empty this cupboard is right now. It's nowhere close to where we were a couple of years ago when we moved Russell Wilson. To me, it's that Raider roster is nowhere close to even our roster. And that was a pretty empty roster of ours at the time, but at least we had something we were working off of. They don't have a DK Metcalf there. They don't still have a Tyler Lockett rolling pretty well. And they don't even got that, And I'll admit if I'm wrong with you too on this, Nicholas. So, if I'm off on this with Crosby, I'll give you credit for hitting it out the park on it as well, And as much beyond just getting caught on Crosby again, it's just that it's more of the theory on this of going out there and making a move for an edge like a Crosby, and whether it would be a smart move or not, whether it's what this team needs or not, whether it could take this defense up even another notch or not, whether it be a great fit for Mike McDonald's defense. That's really, for me, where the most important part of this discussion lies, more than just the intricacy of Crosby himself, though he'd be the number one guy to want to make a run at, because he'd hit that mark the best. But that's really where the consideration is, a bit for me on that. People regret getting tattoos all the time. They do. I appreciate you though, Nicholas, and always appreciate your perspective, brother. Chad Hart, thank you for the $2 donation. Brando, is Pumpkin and Xena good? Go Hawks. They're doing great. Yeah, they're doing great. They've been more roaming the house, kind of less hanging out, chilling out, but both going strong. Xena's rolling freaking 18, 19, 20 years old. I don't know how old she is. I got her late in life, but she's cooking. She's going strong. She's going strong, man. Thank you though, Chad. I get next to my eye. Who cares? I'll admit I'm wrong when Crosby puts on their jersey. Yeah, it's all good, man. I'm wrong about stuff. I'm right, wrong about, we're all, stuff. It's just fun discussion as much as anything else. I'll give you the much would be Raiders ownership is a big part of the problem. Big part of the problem starts with ownership, as and I say often on these shows, starts with ownership. And if you don't have good ownership, you're behind the 8 ball, and it's very hard to get around that. I don't think they're as in bad shape as they've been in this last 30-year period, the Raiders, but I think that there's just a lot of work for Brady and Spy Tech to get this thing right. And it's going to take a long period of time for them to get it fixed. Just so many things, including the quarterback position. We didn't even mention that, Bobby Yaga, we sucked for 5 years. Yeah, we've won 3 straight years in a row. We've had winning records and we got the playoffs one of the years, So it's on that. All right. We're going to wrap it up on this note. I've got to make a run here. I really appreciate you guys watching today. And thank you to all the guys donating. Tons of donations again today on the channel. Really, really appreciate all of you guys for that. If you guys can for me, please do hit that like button. Please get subbed on up. It helps the channel grow tremendously. I've got tomorrow the B&B show coming on at 12 o'clock. We've got as well in the afternoon a call-in show for you guys that are members of the channel. So please do keep an eye on your community posts. I will post out the link there. I will post it again tonight or tomorrow for you guys. But we got the call-in show tomorrow at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time here. So keep an eye on your community post on that. I thank you guys for the great, lively discussion. Last couple things here. Feed me, Hawks does. I know I'm late to the conversation. 2022, the Broncos had the best scoring defense, and look what happened. Yep, I'm not sure what you're meaning on that one. Coke and B, Philip Rivers throwing reminds me of when Pete Carroll used to say play quarterback at Seahawks practice. He does have Philip Rivers throwing motion. He does. How's it going, Industry Worth? We'll catch you over on the B&B show, Nicholas. And I thank you guys for watching today. Hit that like button. Really appreciate you. Great discussion today, as always. Seahawks are rolling. Number 1 seed in our sideline. Let's see if we can go get it. Take down these Colts with the old-ass Philip Rivers. And then we got Thursday Night Football with the Rams. That showdown. Man, we've got a lot of opportunity this year. We can make some noise. This team is coming together. I hope you're excited. I hope you're raring to go. I hope you're ready for the playoffs. I hope you're ready for us to make some noise in the playoffs this year. But just in case, let me remind you, don't you ever forget. And shout out to the sponsor of the show, Sleeper. Please use my code, Nest. But don't you ever forget. Go Hawks.